AC the Galactic Soul, the Honorable Brother, the Revolutionary yourself, Darius Lockhart, and I'm here to tell you to watch Powerbombshells every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern on the Fight Game Media YouTube channel. That's right, every Sunday at 1 p.m., and that's on time, every time, because when we stand together, what time is it? That's right, it's nation time.
Welcome to Power Bombshells. I'm Mel. That's Sam. We're just two broads talking about the wrestling we watch. And we are very, very excited today because you guys are about to be seeing double.
Yes, you are. And so we are welcoming back to the show today Darius Lockhart, the man that you just saw. Making sure we were on time this week. We're not late this week. Hello, Darius. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, like you said, I might have to re-record that. If, sometimes
sometimes we're on time. We're on time when we mean to be.
I kind of think it's hilarious because it's sort of a funny little quirk about Power Bombshells that kind of works for us. But I also think, listen, I'm not going to turn down a wizard time.
Yeah,
right.
No,
but that, you were kind enough to make us that, and we love playing that. So.
Yes.
But we're on time today.
We are on time today, just for you. I know that you are. We know that you are on a schedule today, a tight schedule today. So we want to make sure we get right into it. And again, we appreciate you coming on. And so the last time you were here, Ashe was just getting started, and we have now, December was your 1-year anniversary. You have now Ashe TV is happening right over on the Ashe's YouTube channel every Thursday at 8 p.m. And you have actually even traveled outside of Charlotte now. So what has changed, I guess, the most in the first year, and what have you learned through this first year?
One thing I've learned is that everybody's expectations shouldn't have so much to do with me. I have to do how I do, and I have to move with, the ability I have to move with, the energy I have to move with, I don't want to push things too far, too fast. There's a lot of people, always, when we get this, when we get that, when we seen that person, have we seen this person? And my nature internally is to go, well, guys, it's only been a year. We went bi-monthly, please. But I shouldn't even have to explain that. Sometimes it's just really like, I want people to understand, like, we're making something that we really care about. And sometimes it takes a little longer. But my patience, it has to be with me, and I have to sit with that. That's one of the biggest things that I've learned this past year. Also just that, your job, it's never really over, but you kind of like, you have to just create that time of just waking up when it's healthy to wake up, not always be on call 24/7 like promoters do. It's not.
Yeah, definitely. And so what was it like? Ashe just went to Indianapolis last weekend, and that was the first show outside of the Charlotte market. So what was it like moving Ashe from where you have been? You've been in various venues throughout Charlotte, but you basically have a home venue now. So what was it like having to take that to a whole other state?
Take it on the road.
Well, I think there's kind of I don't want to say common misconception, but there's a bit of misconception, at least the way I see it. I see it a little bit more casual. This was something that we collaborated with Naptown All Pro in Indiana, with Fight Club out of DC. So to me, we were guests at Naptown's home. A lot of people are kind of coming to me asking me, how does it feel to take Ashe on the road? This didn't really feel like that to me. This felt like getting a few of the guys that work for us, a few of the girls work for us, put them in a van and getting on the road and just making a date. That's what it felt like. It felt like the day. Yeah, we lent our name and our likeness and our lore to the promotion, to that event, because in honor of Trey D. But I don't think it necessarily. I think Vegas is going to be the first trial of that. Really, what it feels like to have Ashe on the road. I mean, we didn't take the canvas up there. We didn't take the buckles. Like when you look at the ring, it looks like a ring, not an Ashe ring. So it's very much.
That's super interesting.
We were guests in a home, so
that's kind of fun in a way, because I was a soccer player. That's what I did. So we used to do, essentially building. It's kind of like a form of where you go stay with other people in other people's homes. You switch. It's basically like, you take my kids, I'll take your kids. Or you may live in a different country or a different state or whatever. But it starts a collaborative, which is like what you guys want to do anyway. But essentially, like, that's perfect. I love that. And I love that idea simply because we're running stuff at our local odd and we're using the function here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be really,
I mean, it works.
I'm not going to ask anything of you. I'm just gonna manifest.
Oh no, it was one of those things that, it was like a potluck of wrestling, but for a good cause. It was for a good cause. Yeah. So we had we were memorializing Trey D, remembering him, and some of his family was in the building, so we got to honor that.
Great.
These are just 3 promotions that Trey D really honored a lot. So we were just happy to be like, hey, let's do it for him. And but in the essence, we did get to film content. So some of the things that went down were going to be on Ashe TV. So you will see it on Ashe TV.
Good, because I saw some pictures of a certain champion.
We can talk about it.
Okay, we can talk about it. Yeah, so I saw that Khan had his eyes on Shug D and his title, and we've seen Khan looking at the Ashe title at the Ashe show. So it seems like Khan is got his eyes on a couple different belts. Yeah. So this was, I'll have to put the footage out as a clip this week. It's kind of hard to balance everything. They have all the footage, so we're just waiting. Right.
Ready to get our footage from that show to be repackaged that we have to do with. But in the meantime, people can check it out on IWTV. It was an incident where Khan kind of started the conversation that him and Shug didn't have at the last Ashe event that they saw each other. And I mean, it wasn't, I know you guys saw just the photo, but if you watch the show, and we'll put out the clip soon, Khan has a lot to say to Shug. Khan had a lot to say to Shug, and it got really ugly.
I saw them get heated on Twitter, so I was like, "Oh, I know that they must have gotten heated on that show," because I was like, "I've got to go back and watch that."
It was definitely the energy in the room. Definitely matched the tweets. Khan feels like he's above everything. He's the prince that was promised, right? He was so he feels like everything should be his, and he's starting with Shug apparently. So we'll see how that falls out.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why I like that we've talked about it before with Ashe has both. There's a lot of storyline, and I mean, you get the dream matches because obviously we see some really amazing things. I mean, again, the very first show right out of the gate, we got Aja Kong and Trish and we've gotten Jonathan Gresham and gotten other people involved. But all these matches are great. But we also, if you followed Ashe over the last year, or if you're starting to watch now on Ashe TV, you will see these stories develop and play out, which is, it keeps you invested as a fan. And then obviously, we're typically in the building for the show. So it keeps us coming back like, well, what's going to happen next month, which I think that you guys have done a really incredible job with, especially this story that has started basically with you and Darius Carter back in the very first show, and people are starting to see it. For those of us who were, saw it in the building or were watching, because you can purchase Ashe shows to watch live. We all watched this play out in real time, and now we're getting to kind of revisit that with Ashe TV. And I think that you have done a really great job telling these stories. And then we've got, and also within that story, you've also crowned your first champion. And so what was it like to kind of get that to establish a title within Ashe?
Well, it didn't feel good to have my head bounce off the mat for that finish, but
understandable.
But in a weird way, a weight was kind of lifted off me that night. It's a question that we don't have to, one question that we get a lot that now we don't have to answer. Now that answers more questions that we'll have to answer. And but it feels good. It feels like a step in the right direction at a good pace. At a pace maybe that other people would have done things more quickly, but I think that's what makes it stand and makes it feel more unique. Thank you for the compliment on the storytelling thing. It's been really an avenue I'm trying to navigate in terms of addressing real time versus addressing what was in the past as we're pushing this television show. I'm a realist. I know that when you put things behind a paywall, especially as a starting brand that has not proven itself, you're only going to get so many eyes. But we needed some kind of startup, at least some kind of financial support help to start off. Now that we're kind of a year in, and I feel like I'm not gonna say we got all the money we could out of that footage, but it really hit me that accessibility is important, and also knowledge is important. So people have to know what they're getting. So I'm gonna have to give a little bit to get more. So giving these little treatments of Ashe TV weekly, and people can catch up and be immersed in these stories. So by the time when there's another live show, Vegas for April 17th, I was about to say Vegas 17th. Sorry, Vegas April 17th, and the following show and coming back to Charlotte, which I'll let you guys know will be a tentative date in June. Okay. When we're back there, then now people are now more immersed. Now they know why they want to come to spend a ticket at an Ashe show, not just word of mouth. There's a visual that goes to it. So I'm glad that you feel that way about Ashe TV, and I'm happy that that people will also get to watch the champion crowned in slow time and see what happened and the way it happened. Then we're off to the races, really, because Carter, as much as I hate to give him much credit, he's ready to run with that kind of ball. He wants to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
I enjoyed the shows one thing that I do like is that because I'm not in the Charlotte area, you do have the option to purchase the pay-per-views, and I've enjoyed that. So I've watched almost all of them, and being able to watch afterwards, and I do appreciate that there's a story there, because it's like, and again, it's like I money's tight for everyone and all of those things, but because I'm a huge indie supporter, and I was just having a conversation with a good friend yesterday about how we always, like, when we're at indie shows, we always have a moment where we're like, this is so awesome. And it's been really great to be able to have that. And the guys on the broadcast do a great job, and they're really, and we've obviously, we're a little bit, biased over here, but no, it's great. The presentation is great, and that's something that the reason I'm just throwing the whole website on there is because you can get all the subscriptions to the YouTube and all the everything on there. And I, as the way outside the Charlotte area person, I'm like, this is awesome. Like, I want this. I want it to get around. I want it to permeate where wrestling is right now, because there's a lot of indies that are, I think there are a lot of us are in the same headspace, both as fans and as promoters and talent. I think that we're trying to and even in because I do Ren fairs, there's a lot of, it's like you can be fun and you can be funny and you can be interesting and you can be cool without all that old baggage that used to come with it. And so we're kind of like, you guys are blazing these new paths where it's like, I can do this without being a jerk, and I can be creative, and I can collaborate with my fellow talented humans that want to see this be rich. We want this to live.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad you guys can see that. It's that's one thing that is fruitful that I don't really outwardly acknowledge a lot, but just because I don't like patting myself on the back too much or knocking, jinxing things. But this has been such a positive experience for the locker room. People like to say that this is, I've heard numerous times, this is people's favorite place to work because their guard can be down and it could be as enjoyable as they imagined that their wrestling career would be enjoyable. You're not getting here and there's people, making them feel tense or everyone's being a little weird. Mm-hmm. This really feels like people doing something together that they love. And it's, Ashe being such a spirit of love is really what's essential to making this work, because I'm a person where, I wanted to see wrestling change for the better. I've been a victim of the negative and the awful things that pro wrestling has to offer. I've seen, just a number of things where the industry needs to change in that direction. So I'm glad that with that in my mind and my spirit, that I'm doing that through action, and we're doing that through action, I should say. And not just, it's so concentrated or being so heady about it. It's just naturally flowing and occurring. So it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And I was, and I could say just from the talent, some of the talent that I've interviewed and stuff, that's one of the things that I have come across in every person I've been able to talk to is they love Ashe. They love, even from the first, the early shows, they were like, this is unlike anything, I've done before. And I feel like Darius trusts me, or I feel like I appreciate that Darius, Darius has faith in me to do my job and to tell these stories. And I think that you definitely have created that environment, because I have heard from every single person that I have been fortunate to interview, they have all had really positive things, and they all say, that they love working Ashe. And some of them who have been, have come back, have been on multiple shows. They're like, I'm so glad I get to come back, which I think is a great thing. And so you can pat yourself on the back for that.
That's great. If I had a huge budget, could put people on contracts, everyone we had would be back every week. Honestly, I would love to do a 2-hour touring thing with this crew, because everyone's so talented, and I just want to put out there in the world that if you see someone that you liked on show 2 that hasn't been back, you saw someone on show 4, there's no heat, there's no nothing, there's no disinterest. Yeah. It's just a matter of right place, right time, and it doesn't make sense. We've loved everyone we've gotten to work with,
right. Yeah, that's
times are tough all over. People have to take care of themselves on both sides of the paper, and the bottom line is always the bottom line. It sucks, but it's still a business.
Well, and there's also finite spots that are available on these matches, or you'll be here. I mean, some of us would probably be okay with 5-hour shows. I know you would not. That would be too much for you to do. But if you're booking all these talents every show, like you've got to. You're really you've done. I think that's one thing that's been really great in this first year is the pacing of the shows are so well done, and you don't feel at the end of them, especially being there in person, you don't feel like drained. Like, I can't believe I just sat through this for hours or anything like that. I think most people think it ends on a high note, no matter how the show ends. It ends maybe not when Darius is title, maybe not that one.
That was the one time everyone went home not so happy.
Right.
That was like Empire Strikes Back. Oh, the good guys don't win this one. Oh,
now I have to wait for the last movie. He keeps me coming back.
That's it.
Gosh darn him.
But thank you for noticing that's a thing that we've that was essential to me going into this. I know people always thumb their nose at, like, you need to make wrestling for wrestling fans. Don't try to worry about other people. They're not going to support wrestling. Wrestling fans are going to support wrestling. And I think to a detriment, that's true. To a sense, that's true. But at the same time, if I want to make this expand and be bigger and digestible for more people to even remember why they loved wrestling, or to come back, or even just come one time as a spectacle, have fun, it needed to be something that they remember they had fun at, not felt tired. So, outside of some shows where we kind of got to get things done to plot, get things moving, unless, some things have to happen when they happen, or you're going to have to wait a year for it to happen. Right. So I try to make that happen when I can. So some shows do go a little bit longer than I wanted them to, but my goal going into this was always to, when the show ends, I want them wanting more and wanting to come back, not being like, oh, I don't know, last time I went to our show, we were there till midnight, bro. I don't I don't want people to feel like that. And I want to give cool credit that it's not just a magic thing I can wave my hand and do. That is down to the team of, me and Chris Lee, who's big on, plotting the show out minute by minute, and Kevin Pierce, Superjaw Productions, and everything like that. This is a team effort. Even Gerard Bonner steps in at some points. We all just kind of collaborate and say, how can we get this as tight and smart as possible, without losing a little bit of any momentum or dragging. Now, once the performances happen, I can't do anything. But if they take it slow, that's them. But me, thank you. Yeah.
So with, obviously now we've got several episodes in on Ashe TV, and, it's playing out for everyone. What has it been like to kind of go back and watch, like, while you've been editing this? Because you're doing everything over here on the Ashe channel, if I remember correctly. He has a great team behind him. Darius sometimes is a one-man show doing a lot of this stuff. So what has it been like, kind of rewatching some of this stuff and going back and seeing what how Ashe progressed through this year, this last year that you've had?
It's cool seeing the growth in the performers. That comes to mind first. Seeing people, just the confidence, it rises up through each episode as I'm watching, and like, wow, look at this person. And granted, there's months in between each episode for some people, but it's I'll put it over. Two people come to mind: Charity King and Kevin Knight. Charity King, from show 1, there's this girl who, you're watching her and you say there's something there, but she's not. But by show 4, she's so confident and kicking ass. And it's like, Dog, the amount of growth and ability that was there, and you could put it on the NWA title run, you could put it on the platform she's been given, you can put it on the talent she's been working with. But to see that growth, it makes me really proud to see people. Kevin Knight as well. A lot of people, him not being the first con, even to an extent, this past weekend, they came to me. This is the first time someone's put a mic in my hand live. You just did it, and now I've never gotten a chance to do that. So you made me have to grow something, and now I'm excited about doing that. Now Kevin loves to do live promos. Now Khan is finding a footing on live promos. Savannah Evans with some of the pre-tape promos, trying to find a voice, and so seeing that from there. So it's just really cool to see people. You're seeing people put it together in real time, and I'm able to see it almost on fast forward as I go through these shows.
Right.
Another thing is just things I've forgotten. It's like just being like, oh, I forgot.
You got a lot you have to remember.
Yeah.
You keep. I know that it's a silly thing to bring up, but in one of Jericho's books, he mentioned that he asked someone he looked up to about like a match, and they were like, "Kid, I've done so many matches, I can't even remember."
Right.
And so he started keeping something of a journal, sort of like tracking his. Do you do anything like that? Do you have time or even the impetus? I mean, do you feel like jotting down, not for like any particular reason, but just sort of for your own like this kind of stuff?
I wish I journaled more. When I was a kid, I started off, I was just a student of the game. I found this at 12 and loved it as much as that isn't important to my character, so I don't talk about it much. Like here, just being a human, I was enamored by that book as well. It kind of captured my imagination of what my career could look like, or what career should look like, or just what a journeyman's life was like in this business, what it could put me through. So being prepared, I told myself I was going to do it. Yeah, I'll get a journal, and I think that lasted maybe a few months. and I think by the 20th or 20-something match, I think I lost the journal. I don't know where it is, but I'll maybe find it one day. But there's been so many things that I've been blessed to do. I remember a lot of them, which I'm thankful for, especially as many times I've been hitting the head. But stuff that I do remember, stuff that I don't remember, it is nice to like come back and be like, damn, that was dope. I forgot I said that. I forgot to do that thing. A lot of time it's promos. I won't watch something for a long time, but I watch myself from like 3 years ago. I go, damn, that kid was good. I should have kept saying that. Watching things, but video is all I really have nowadays. Journal and Instagram. That is probably the
right.
I mean, that's kind of good though. That's why we are living in a time where the journal is the journey itself.
Yeah. Right. And you're right about that. The journaling will make you realize that the journey is the beauty, not the destination, if anything, because you really get to see everything all played out. But I wouldn't say cage match. Cage match is a lot of matches missing.
That is true. That is.
Once I figured out, it was like once I figured out that it existed, someone pointed me to it. I was like, there's so much. There's like gaps here. I've done this 3 times, not 2. I've done this 5 times. Not okay.
Isn't it like Wikipedia though? It's basically user updated.
Yeah.
I think some of it is,
So we need to get on that, guys. Hive mind.
It's
activate.
The past the past now. I just hope to.
No, I mean on behalf of Ashe.
Oh yeah, we have Ashe.
Activate on behalf of Ashe.
Yeah,
make sure you fill in the gaps in all of the stuff.
Absolutely. But Ashe TV will hopefully help a lot of people do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
And so obviously you've mentioned it a few times, and it's been announced that Ashe is going to Vegas and will be part of Mania weekend, all the craziness. And I think for a lot of fans, including myself, like we prefer the wrestling that's happening around WrestleMania. And there's so much amazing talent, and talk about, I mean, there's dream matches, but also for some companies that is a continuation of their show and the stories they've been telling. So what can you tell us about this show coming up in Vegas, and kind of like, what is this more going to be focusing on, just dream matches because that's where we're at, or are we going to continue some Ashe stories here, or what can we expect?
I feel like this show needs to be a healthy blend of both. I feel like a lot of people come to WrestleMania weekend and try to do their own WrestleMania, and I don't think that's what to do. Like it's so much going on. People move from place to place. Some people might not even watch all of your show because they're trying to hit every show. Yeah. So I think I saw this as more of a sampler. So where continuity matters. And so the people who have been, people. I mean, you'll see people who've been interacting before interact again. That's for sure. And I'm sure that their story will continue in that note, including myself on that note. But I think that this is more of a showcase to show you what Ashe does well. So the idea is to kind of not get in, get out, but come in, blow your mind, make you want more, make you watch the show, tune in the show, say, what have I been missing? And leave hopefully happy. That's really my MO with this show.
And your show is at noon, correct?
It's at 11 a.m. So it was supposed to be.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I won't get too messy. It was supposed to be at noon, but there was a little faux pas on someone's end.
Oh, no.
With putting us on a fire at Saturday at 11. So I had to, make some calls.
Oh, I did see that. I saw the tweet, and we were like, that's not right.
Well, I had talent texting me and being like, well, I thought we were on Thursday. And I was like, we are. And they said, well, this poster says you're not. And so, boom. So I had to make that work. So we're at, so people had to get pushed back. So now we're at 11 a.m. On Thursday, which is okay. It gives people more time to get in the building. So, we'll work with that. And so 11 a.m. on Thursday, we'll have more promotional material coming out over the next couple of weeks because tickets are supposed to be on sale this month. So we're going to be able to put that out, and hopefully things will continue to go smoothly.
And how can fans will this be streamed live? Will we be able to watch Ashe's Vegas show live, or is this something you're filming for Ashe TV or to be determined?
It's to be determined right now.
Okay.
It's to be determined right now. It's a lot of logistics. We're not sure how much of our team is going to be around for that time slot in terms of production. So, so sometimes this might have to just be a pre-filmed thing and maybe pop up on Ashe TV. But if we can give it to you guys live, trust me, we will.
Okay. Well, that is good to know because I generally try to watch. I end up watching a lot of stuff around then, and so I was like, obviously, I have shows that are my priority. Ashe would be a priority, so I was like, when I'm making out my schedule of things to watch, I want to make sure if Ashe is there. But I'm so glad that you guys are getting to be a part of this weekend because, like you said, there are so many fans who are there trying to hit up different shows, and I think that this is a great way to expose Ashe to the masses, not just, clearly the YouTube show is there, but for the people who aren't even aware and they're just kind of like, hey, it's 11 o'clock. Let's go check out our wrestling show.
Right on.
Yeah.
You never know who could stumble across your product. And there's also a good time to just get people who I haven't been able to work with on this show because everyone's just going to be in town.
Everyone's around.
Yeah.
Sam got me into everything about, I had no idea until I met Sam that there was a whole wide world of wonderful independent and like other promotions around WrestleMania. And so now it's become a big, I'm like, yay, WrestleMania weekend for all the stuff around it.
Exactly.
So I'm so excited that you guys get to be part of that because I actually was in New York. We went for the Madison Square Garden show for New Japan, but my friend had never been to WrestleMania. So it was like, well, we got to go out to, I call it the Meadowlands. And he would, because he came from another country. So it's like, you got to take him out there. And oh man, we barely made it out alive. But it's like,
I ran into.
Wish that we could have gotten to more places. Vegas is easier to get around than New York City because you can walk around to places if you absolutely have to. And you can't walk in New York. So this is like, it's kind of perfect. You guys are going to have I know it's kind of a weird time, but I love it because I'll be like my coffee. It's right in between things that if the fates align and we're able to, I'll get it either way. But I think
it's a good time because people are we notably put it during the day because Wale Mania is that night. And
that's a good idea.
Everyone
start the day great and end the day great.
Absolutely, everyone's usually interested in Wale Mania is usually interested for the culture, but usually they be for the culture at midnight. During Wale Mania or the night of Wale Mania so to combat that, we were kind of like, we should do something to supplement that crowd because the audiences match. So give them some cool wrestling during the day and go get dressed and go to Wale Mania and enjoy it. So it can kind of be a double feature for some people.
Yeah, definitely would.
So that was that mindset. And and I know you're totally right about wrestling WrestleMania weekend. I was going to say I ran into Shane Strickland at a WrestleMania. I think it was 33. And we were both, I ran into him at the nacho line. or something like that. And I was like, "How are you?" He was like, "I'm exhausted because everything. This whole weekend's been there. like he's been working and wrestling 20 people a week, and then by the time he gets to sit down and watch a show, he's like, I'm too tired to watch Fight Mania. I'm exhausted." And crazy enough, he was so booked that year. He had a match at midnight after WrestleMania. So there was like his job was like around WrestleMania, but he was having so much fun around it. It was just like one of those things. So people are like that. It gets like that. And what a beautiful pocket universe.
Totally.
Kind of is really. I remember you said something earlier. It kind of came and went to my mind, but when you're experiencing independent wrestling, it is a moment where you kind of got to go, wow, this is cool, because the fact that there is someone who has no idea that this is going on right now, but everyone in this room is the most important thing right now to them. Right. This person rallying up and coming back. I remember feeling that way during a Pro Wrestling Eve show in England. I was I think in Leeds. I'm sitting there just supporting some friends, and I came there to help set up and everything, but I'm watching, and in the middle of watching, I think Trish Adora versus somebody, or it was Faye Jackson versus somebody, but it was British talent, and I was just thinking like, wow, this is a all women's fight club underground in an art venue, and like someone might not even know it exists, but it was just a really beautiful underground feeling, and it feels like a pocket universe where, like I said, the most amazing things can happen. So independent wrestling is beautiful in that aspect. Even when you look at old ROH tape from 2005, it has that same aspect. Mm-hmm. It's like, where does this go? Where does this exist? Why does this everyone in this room knows it's the most important thing? Why don't I know it? Yeah. You want to attack in, so it's cool.
Yeah, definitely. So what do you? I know that we've kind of hit the Vegas show is obviously such a big thing this year, but for those of us who have been watching or are watching it unfold on YouTube, what do fans have to look forward to this upcoming year for year 2 of Ashe?
Oh man, more shows. Now that we've kind of established what this is in the world build, I think you get to see more new names, more new faces, more just kind of pop-ins. You'll see a lot of more friends stopping by, but which is cool. There's always room for more, and there's hopefully continue to see a good pace and expansion. More visibility is what I hope. That's really what I really want this year to have: more visibility and more income. So that's what we're trying to make it work.
Yes, definitely. And then I know that we need to let you go shortly, but is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you want to mention or bring up, or anything that you want to share?
Just to continue to support Ashe Wrestling TV. If you haven't checked it out, there's so much in Ashe Wrestling TV that you don't get at the live shows, and there's so much in Ashe Wrestling TV that you don't get on the pay-per-views when you watch. So all 3 versions of experiencing Ashe are something very unique and different to themselves. And so it being free, I encourage you to check out Ashe Wrestling TV. We put a lot of I put a lot of work in. I like to say
I like the "What's in My Bag" segments.
Yeah.
Sam started sharing them. I ended up in like a click hole on them one day. I was just like, wait, this is super interesting.
Yes, it's a great way for people, especially for some of the talent that's on there, that, like, of course there's talent on there that I know because I've seen them around locally for a long time, but to get that aspect of them, but for people who are just coming into Ashe and maybe only know the bigger names, to get to know these people on a...
As an ex-theater kid, it's like you get like a theater program with bios. I think that's like a more clever way to do it, because it's kind of like a bio and it's, in a program or whatever, but it's way more interesting look into somebody's like...
No,
we are all human and we all have our little quirky things. So it's totally something that you can connect to immediately. It's like, look, we're both normal. We have normal, nerdy human crap that we do.
No, absolutely. And, I still want my roster to come off as, aspirational, but I still want you to know that I think that this kind of endears people to some. I let people know that, there is a human inside, and that who you're rooting for. And that goes a long way when you have a connection with someone and you see yourself in someone. And for it to be, like you said, you to be like, you're a human just like me. And that notion, even speaking to the larger conversation that Ashe existence is having, it speaks to, I think it's good work. So thank you for that. And that kind of, and having a real time a moment in real time right now processing that. So that's really cool that you appreciate them so much. Thank you.
I do. I mean, it's great. I'm totally behind this. I'm so glad that Sam brought this into my life. I can peek into it because we live in an internet age, and this is what I want people to associate wrestling with, not the other stuff.
Thank you too.
When someone says, I'm a pro wrestling fan, I want them to compare it to like you mean like Ashe, not some of the other companies.
That's so sweet. That's so sweet.
And I know we've all experienced that on one level or another, because they always make the association to the North American large company. And sometimes it's like, no, not that. I really would rather have it associated with stuff like this. And so
I appreciate it. And that's a giant that they're playing two different games. We're playing two different games, obviously, but I love that. I've always been a fan of subcultures. I'm just a person who's into kind of sociology and just humans that way. So to be the subculture, to be the subgenre a little bit within the subgenre, I should say, and watch it kind of hopefully expand and become a craze. I would love for that. So that's the goal, that people can start saying like Ashe and start seeing this and as just pro wrestling.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm just happy with the way things are going. It's being perceived right now, and I'm glad a lot of people like the editing. I'm sorry as well. I have to put that over. I was a little worried that people weren't going to.
You're always going to be your own worst. You're always going to be your own toughest critic. You're always going to be hardest on yourself.
Yeah, but I saw people online being like, I think some people, they want wrestling to just be the way it's always been done, and they're just like, there's no, this, where's that? And it's like, this doesn't exist here. We get to do everything. I think the biggest, kind of wrap up, go full circle what you were saying. I think the biggest detriment to wrestling the past 40 or 30 years has been the birth of so many Vince McMahon sons. Everyone does wrestling like him.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where the shows are just like another version that it can be cookie cutter. I mean, we could call it that, but in essence, it's just the formatting. It becomes unimaginative. That's why Lucha Underground sparked so many imaginations. It wasn't formatted the same way.
Right.
But if you watch generally, big companies, it starts with the Vinces, and it opens like Vinces, and so and there are things we can always borrow and learn from the company structure. But we have to also remember, for this to grow, that it was one man's vision, and that so many of us have visions if we just, close our eyes and tap into it a little bit longer and not have to take someone else's on as gospel truth and the only way to do it so much. So I hope this employs people to be more creative with their craft and their outlooks in life.
Definitely.
Agreed.
Yeah. And I think that going back before we let you go, like the Ashe, going back to the editing, like I love like the cards that pop up that have like text where it's kind of like the Adult Swim type stuff where there's things popping up. But you were doing that in some of your promos. Before Ashe was the thing, you would say something and then he would pop stuff up. And I feel like I just really enjoy that, and I'm glad that you have incorporated it so much into Ashe TV every week. And I think and other people are starting to take notice. And I think Ashe retweeted someone who was talking about the editing and how much they loved it, and they like these little kind of tongue-in-cheek things that are happening so that the viewer is in on it. And I think the presentation of Ashe TV has been really incredible, and you've done an amazing job with it.
Thank you. I would love for this to be the overall understanding of what Ashe is, honestly. I think Ashe TV, Ashe Wrestling TV, I think is my purest form of what I wanted this to be. And I don't know how we're going to be able to do that live. We'll figure it out one day.
One step at a time. Things come in their own time.
Yeah. But the post edit has been really a really
I love it. I think it's great. I think that it's exactly what it should be. It works with. I think the biggest takeaway, and because you don't get this kind of feedback necessarily, and obviously, like you said, you don't pat yourself on the back. So for the rest of us to do it for you is the hard work that's going into the programming and the shows and the presentation is coming across. As a wrestling fan, I appreciate that. I don't feel talked down to. I really enjoy it, and I like it. Gives me that vibe, even though I'm not necessarily in the building with Sam, which would be a great day one day to,
We'll get you there.
But it's still, it still gives you that on a Friday or a Saturday night where you're like, well, I'm not in the gym or I'm not in the auditorium necessarily, but I am. Like, and I like that feeling.
We try to reach out at the screen through you. We try to make you feel like you're here. So it's all good.
It's working. At least for me. I'm only one person, but it's working for me.
You don't talk down to either. I think a lot of people don't like when people say some things online that's very subconsciously like very coded, but a lot of people don't have when I have something smart to say. I think the first trailer came out for Ashe, and some people started calling it, "This looks pretentious." And I was like, why? Because I'm using $10 words. I'm using words that have more than 5 syllables. Like, I'm using like more than 2 syllables. Like, I don't understand. So this is something that's very like people love to say it, but I love that you guys feel it's so accessible and loving. But I wrap this up.
Yeah, definitely. And so we've popped up all your things, but we'll just run through it real quick. Where can people follow you and Ashe on social media? Go ahead.
You can follow me on Instagram at Darius Lockhart, YouTube Darius Lockhart. On Twitter, I'm at DLockPro. I don't remember what my threads is, but if you look up my name, I'll pop up. I'm the only guy really using this name that hard. For Ashe Wrestling, it's at Ashe Wrestling on anything. So that's YouTube, Blue Sky, Instagram, whatever social media. We're having to post, we're getting to the thing where I'm getting done editing the show at the end of the week, and then the show's going live, and I'm like, I don't have any clips to tweet and post. I have to do that too. And so now it's just kind of getting like, so I saw someone be like, y'all need to make a Blue Sky. We made a Blue Sky so I can post.
I'm so glad that you're on Blue Sky, because I was over there just posting about Ashe's 1 and 2, and I was like, it's just me and my sister hanging out over here, a few other people. Shug's over there, I think, sometimes.
But then someone asked me, well, do you have Spill? Do you have fan base? Do you have, and I was like, dog, I don't
too much.
But whatever you think we should be on, if you type in Ashe Wrestling, I hope we'll be there. I'm not on Spill or the other thing yet, fan base, but we're working on it, guys.
Some of that stuff won't last anyway.
And then make sure, if you are watching, whenever you watch it, whether it's live on Thursdays or whenever you get to go back, make sure you use hashtag #WatchAshe, because that helps people find it. Yeah. So make sure that when you, or even if it's just like, hey, I'm starting this, and just use it. Because I'm behind. I didn't get to go back for 3 and 4 yet, but make sure you're using it.
Yeah, please just also share. Yes. Share with friends, tweet it, post it, whatever you got to do, Instagram it, whatever you got to do, TikTok it, whatever you got to do.
Defeat the algorithm, folks.
Yeah, but also just watch and send it to a friend. You never know who's going to fall in love with this product, and it really means a lot. It's going to help us keep this thing going for a long time. So the more, and also like and subscribe too. That helps us. Please. The likes, the algorithms up. So please, y'all.
Definitely.
But thank you. Every little bit helps, and we love all y'all. Thank y'all so much. Thank you
welcome.
As well.
Thanks, Darius.
Thank you for spending some time with us today.
Thanks for everything. You keep it up.
I appreciate it. All right. Thank y'all. Much love.
Bye.
Moving it. Wow.
Yeah,
He's so nice.
He is. Darius is the best. I'm so glad.
Sam, I'm so glad that you brought Darius into my life.
You're welcome. He is
yet another introduction to a thing. I'm so excited for them being on that. I mean, whether we can watch it live or not, I think it's going to be so much fun to have them there for the weekend.
Yeah, me too. I'm so excited for them, and I hope so many people discover them and stop by. I know it's 11 o'clock on a Thursday, but they are worth it. Get up.
It'll make me, because Bloodsport's on that day anyway.
Yeah, I really do hope we get to watch it in real time, but if not, however we get to watch it, I'm sure it's going to be a great show. I'm so happy for them. And that people are finally getting to experience them. And definitely, like, the YouTube channel is, just right over here. When you're done watching our show, go over to Ashe Wrestling here on YouTube, because like you said, subscriptions, that it helps, because we're all fighting an algorithm and it's something we all have to deal with. And then just Ashe TV it's been really incredible. I do need to watch the last 2 episodes. I mean, I was there live, so I mean, at least I did, but it's like I still need to go back and watch, because it's really fun to rewatch things and to see just like how it plays out, especially because like I'm there, obviously being there in the building, I don't hear commentary. And so it's cool to be able to go back and listen to and commentary change, because the very first episode, they had why am I blanking on his name? I can see his face. Why did his name just escaped my brain? D'Lo Brown. Thank you. I was like, I can see his
screen believe me, I
can see him. Yes, but D'Lo Brown did commentary on the first show.
Right, yeah.
So the first couple episodes have him on commentary. But then, it moves into, because Chris Lee is on commentary for all of it, who Chris is
awesome. He's been a guest of ours. He's our bestie online. He puts us on the great stuff.
He did help us, and he helped me get this interview. So I didn't think it was going to happen. Like, I reached out to Chris on Friday, because I was like, that man's booked and busy. It might be March before Darius is available. Whatever. I just want to put it out there. Whenever he's ready, we'll get him on. And then yesterday, he's like, hey, can Darius come tomorrow? And I was like, I'm sure that's not a problem with Mel, but let me ask. And we got it.
Never a problem. I was actually waiting because I knew that you had put it out in the universe, and I was like, we've got another guest that's in a similar position to Darius, although not an actual in-ring wrestler,
right?
Possibly coming up. And I was like, I gotta wait for Darius because I know Darius is coming. And it was so funny because literally the communication stream where you said that to me, I was like, that's perfect, because I was just about to try for something. I'm like, this is working out exactly the way it's
exactly.
But, I mean, for those of you who are outside, here's a little inside baseball for you. Is when you make an arrangement with anybody in the wrestling business, it's a soft yes. We'll call it. Is that always plan it? Have a plan B. Is essentially something that you learn and I'm like no genius at this, but it's one of the first things you learn. And this was something that even my friend who also worked, is that nothing is an absolute hard yes. It's a probably more than likely, but they might, and we've been very, very lucky because the people that we've had on our show have, they're great and they want to get the word out about their thing. But there are some flakes out there, man. I'm not going to name names. They exist.
Yeah, definitely. Just with anything in wrestling, cards subject to change, and so
subject to change.
And so I was like, we have some topics we got to get to, but we'll just push them back. And Nikki was like, don't. She was joking about not having the show take too long today because it's Super Bowl Sunday, and I was like, that's actually how the pre-show started, because we went live before a Super Bowl, like two Super Bowls ago, I think.
Yeah.
And so that's how we called it the pre-show, because it's the pre-show to the Super Bowl pre-show. It's how we even started with the pre-show that Garrett loves so much. And so it just stuck. And that's how it started was Super Bowl Sunday. I think it was 2 years ago. So
I think when we started, we were like, because we said F it, we were going to go against the NFL at that 1:00 slot on Sundays. We didn't care. We threw caution to the wind. We wanted to get people used to it because football was ending.
Yeah.
So we said, yep, we're going to do it before.
Listen, I'm a huge baseball fan.
We wanted people to have something to do at 1:00 on a Sunday when football was over.
Right. And I'm a huge baseball fan. And so a lot of times the Braves play at 1:00 on Sunday. So I just turned my TV's right here. I turned it on and just
keeps her Braves on in the background.
Right. And they still get their precious TV ratings. And generally I have alerts coming on my phone anyway. So if I can't look at the TV, it comes across. So I get it that, and as somebody who watches the NFL, I will have, even though the Panthers are, well, we got 5 whole wins this year, so double what we did last year. But I would have their games on in the background just because
I do the Google. I figured out Google alerts are pretty actually useful because I can follow the box scores on the Seahawks game.
There you go. See, there are ways to multitask.
Yeah. Yes. Maria, agree. Yeah, because and I think we all know this for life is like it's this. And they say this like for even like military strategy. It's like the plans are great until you hit the battlefield. Like we always when I used to train counselors and coaches for youth sports and youth counseling, it was like, all right, now everything I just taught you, I want I want you to keep it with you, but basically, like, write down your plan. Okay, you got that plan? Okay, crumple it up and throw it away the minute you get on the field, because it's an outline of how you think it's going to go. It never
because you're involving human beings, and
that's why I think one of the keys to doing anything in life, and I mean this, doing this kind of thing especially will help you, but I mean, like, doing theater is the same way, and I mean, it's like especially, and I think that I really see this in Darius, is like he's taking time to be present, and that's the biggest piece of advice I give people. I always tell them that, like, because things can get crazy when you're doing stuff like this all the time.
Yeah.
But that was even the advice I gave to my cousin on his wedding day. I was like, it's going to be nuts.
Right.
But I've done a wedding before, and it's surreal. And just take a minute and make sure that you're present, because like, you want to be able to come back.
I mean,
to that
I often go back to the line from Ferris Bueller where he's talking about, just take a minute and just take it all in, because
life comes at you fast.
It does come at you fast. And so I hear Ferris Bueller in my head reminding me that, like, take a minute and just experience it. And I do want to go back to this comment from Nikki where she said Darius has brought in some awesome people. Y'all should check it out to see who he's brought in. Yeah, there's some really incredible, like, and he was talking about Charity King. Like, I was not familiar with Charity prior to Ashe. And so I was watching her and I was like, oh, who is this? And then I saw her and I was like, whoa. And then I got to interview her and her tag partner, Danny B. And then I got to see them, separately and as a tag team. And they're just this dynamic force. Both of them are. And I was like, I have a new favorite tag team. And I was like, so that's a really cool thing. And so it's also, obviously it's cool because some of the people that are involved are people I've seen locally. And now I'm like, yay, other people can see what I've been seeing the last few years. But even for me, it's cool to be able to see people I've never seen before or I'm not familiar with, and get to watch them and then kind of see, especially in this way. And sometimes it is a one-off and I'll see them once and I'm like, oh, and then, like, I've seen people and then they'll turn around and they'll be like on ROH and I'm like, wait a minute, I just saw them at Ashe, which is a cool thing. But then there's people like Charity who have been back multiple times, so I get to see, like he said, her growth and like what she's been doing, and they're so great. And I don't have
I enjoyed all of it. I mean, I've watched a lot of the episode or the pay-per-views. So I've seen a bunch of the TV stuff. I've been trying to watch it because CCW is doing similar things, not the same, but they are doing a weekly show, which
it's a lot.
It's crazy.
That's a huge undertaking for them. Good, that's good.
And they were doing that one previously, and then they stopped doing it for a while, and then they ended up going back to doing it because they've got a new location at the new Baltimore Trade Center over here in the next town over. It's like, and it's funny because the guy who promoted the event here in my town that's coming back this year, it's going to be in March. Yay! So they'll be back in my town, walking distance from my house again. Awesome. Yay! And again, it's kind of like these parallel courses where you're watching these new promotions come out, but they're doing. I love that he said that he, like, one of the things that Darius enjoyed was watching the talent grow. That's that for someone like me, I can totally identify that as watching your coaches and kids really grow and get good at things or teach you things. One of my favorite things about working with other people that did the same thing as me was I learned a lot of things. I learned a lot of tricks from my younger coaches that I was like, wow, I've never seen that trick before. That's a great trick. Totally stealing that. Like, so it's when you're more, I think that there's a bunch of us who are looking for a more collaborative, humane way of approaching the universe and the world at large in our communities. And so it's just nice to see that going on in both of our areas and continuing on. And even us, like, we're about to turn 3 and that blows my mind.
Me too.
I mean, Ashe's turning this old. We're turning this old. It's crazy.
Right. It is. And before we, I guess, switch gears and get into the topic, it's funny that you put this in our notes because I came to put it in our notes and you already had. So I was like, perfect. So We do.
Well, I didn't see it in the notes, and I was like, we gotta remember.
Right, and that's why I came to put. I was kind of like, I don't want to forget, so let me put it in the notes. And Mel had already done it, and I was like, see, this is what happens when you podcast together for almost 3 years. You know that these things will help each other. So, as most of you know, we are terrible about promoting super chats.
Very bad.
However, we do have an opportunity that we think if you would be if you're so inclined to give us super chats, please don't feel like you have to, but we do have an opportunity. If you've been watching for a while, you have probably seen Lo from Wrestling Wind Down. We interviewed her. Mel and I have some of her merch, so you've probably seen us wearing. Yes, there's her website. You've probably seen us wear her merch. Mel has.
I think I got my Hotties for Henry. That's right in the middle of the luchador and the Naito.
And then I've got a custom Bad Bitches for Canadian Destroyers. Mel has me this amazing. I've posted it here. It's my pillow, my amazing pillow a custom pillow and blanket that she got for me a few months ago, which is incredible. And so Lo will be during WrestleMania weekend. Lo will be hosting a event for women in wrestling. It's a networking event, and we can give you the exact information if you are interested. But anyway, she'll be hosting this event, and they are looking for sponsors, and they have given us the opportunity to become a sponsor. And so our goal is to do the $100 sponsorship that would get our logo and our name out in front of women wrestling fans, which again, we're here for everybody, but in the women in this space is somebody that we're definitely trying to reach. And of course, we want to reach all wrestling fans. So if you feel so inclined to give us any type of super chat, that's what the super chats are going to go for. Because I know sometimes when you give people super chats, you're not exactly sure what they're doing with money, which is their business. But for us, we want to put it back into our show, and would be an incredible marketing opportunity for us, and also to support another woman in wrestling and somebody who's been on our show and is doing some great things in women's wrestling. And so that is that's what we will be would be requesting for the next few weeks. Is your help with that? Again, please don't feel obligated, but since we're super chats are a thing and it's not something we are good at promoting and utilizing, I came to Mel and was like, why don't we try and see if this works and help us get there, just to be something really cool for us. And so if you're able to help us, that would be great. If not, again, please don't feel pressure to, but
and be warned that we might be putting that out there on socials just a little bit. And we're not like Sam said, this is a really difficult time for everyone. And if you can, you can, and if you can't, you can't, and that's great. And we appreciate anything. And it's like, I love that it's become, we've come to a point that Lo especially has come to the point where she's put something like this together and being offered, being in the group of people where it's like, hey, I'm going to reach out to the Powerbombshells. That's really cool.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
And I think that we'll talk about it, but maybe we'll show you guys sort of what the tiers are. We'll discuss how that works or whatever. But regardless of that, be prepared. We might be doing some shameless plugs on our brand new Powerbombshells Blue Sky and other social media applications that you may or may not be subscribed to. So But yeah, from now until March 17th, any super chat that is put into here will go to that, because whatever, we want to try and get in there. And
we just thought it would be a really cool thing to try to, because we don't really obviously market ourselves outside of social media. So we just thought, you know what, hey, this would be a cool opportunity for us. Support that helps us and helps Lo, and we can kind of two birds with one stone type of thing. And so,
and it's, again, like Sam said, a lot of times you're just giving the money and do what you want. So it's your YouTube channel. You do what you do. But in this case, it's actually going to something that will, if you like us and you like Lo and you like wrestling and you like what you've seen over the last 3 years, then that would be great. And we would appreciate it. And if not, then You know,
That's okay too.
it's great because wrestling rocks, and we're still going to be here giving you the best and free content that you can possibly ever imagine.
That's right.
Both wrestling and other imaginative things. It was crazy. We were on time and we talked about wrestling right off the jump.
I know.
What is
That's very
happening
rare.
here?
That is very rare for us.
We
Don't
turned
expect that next
150
week.
and like matured or something. We're finally entering our mature stage. I don't think that's true.
No. Every once in a while we will. For when we have important people like Darius.
Well, yeah, I mean, Darius, we always have time for Darius here. He's one
when we
of
have
those.
important guests, we'll make sure that we're on time. But other times we'll be
Wizard
here.
time.
And you guys, yep. And some of you come in wizard time too. That's perfectly fine. We don't, and our wizard time during the week, we appreciate you.
This is a non-judgmental space. Okay.
Yes.
This is a happy place to come and enjoy other humans that like what you like.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it is an awesome opportunity. So hopefully we get to be a part
either way, it's just cool that she's going to be there doing that. I think it's really fun that that's going to be a thing. That's awesome. And Garrett was saying that he's going to be in Vegas pretty much to talk about Fight Game Media and go see. He's like, maybe I'll see them. And I'm like, maybe you will. And I know that he's excited about that because he wants to see more of that in general. Just in privately talking, he's like, no, I need you people. I need you, girl, you ladies, you women, you broads, you dames. That's for Jeff.
Yes.
I need you in my space. I like you. He likes our point of view.
Yes. We appreciate that. We appreciate the platform that we have.
Holy
and we've had it for
crap.
nearly 3 years, which is crazy. We will be having our 3-year anniversary show in a couple of weeks.
I can't believe it. You know what I did is because I went back to our notes and found the date, and then all the kids have been like, because a lot of them are quitting some of the social media apps, so they don't know with birthdays.
Oh,
so
right.
they program the birthdays into their phone, like smart people. And so they've been teaching me to do this. So I programmed our Powerbombshells birthday in.
There you go.
So I will get a reminder.
I have it written in my physical planner. I have it. I had it.
But see, you are always you're on a different level than me.
I'm bad about not. I used to keep up really well with, like, a lot of times I could remember birthdays off the top of my head, but then I got so.
And
then I
was very close to me, people, but only very close.
Right, and then we'll write and calendars and planners, and then I've kind of gotten away from writing certain things, and I was like, I really have got to go back to writing in my planner and writing everybody's birthdays out. But I mean, I was relying on Facebook too, because it was like, hey, reminder that so and so's birthday is coming, and so then I was like, oh, I don't need to write it down in my planner because I have social media. But now I'm trying to utilize, it's like I'm already using this planner every day.
You're smart
anyway.
that you have a hard planner. I actually do have Grandma gave me a calendar years ago, and I had written down everybody's birthday in it, and so I do have a calendar.
I have
nice.
calendars.
It was a really nice one. It's really cute and pretty, and it's right in my important addresses and birthdays drawer. And that's where I do actually have a hard calendar of every single buddy's birthdays. And I've added, people like you and Sam or you and Nikki. I mean,
thank you.
It's that,
you're written in my planner too.
It's me. We've gotten to that point. We like to do that stuff. Like we share that in common. We were brought up of a generation where, thank you cards and greeting cards were
right.
And again, I've said it plenty of times, is that I can't always afford to do, go out and buy things for people.
Course. Yeah.
For me, when someone like draws me a picture, and I have a lot of friends that are artists and they get paid to do it, and well, they should. So when they sketch me something and send me it, I am like, wow. I mean, I've been friends with some of these people for over 10 years, and I still just write the F out, because it's like, they could have sold this.
Right. Yeah.
And they just did it for me instead.
Right.
So
it's very cool.
And that's like Nikki, and since we're putting over artists, and Nikki's in the chat, Nikki's an excellent artist too. So if you ever go check her out.
Yes, I would. She is. Yes, and we'll put her. Speaking of Nikki, she's in the chat and said, "I'm pretty good at remembering birthdays. I'm not good at remembering to send them out in a timely manner." Yeah, that's
me either. I never get them on time.
Comes through as I will remember. I'm like, I think I have time, and then I'm like, like Mel's birthday present that I got her. Like I saw it and I was like, I saw it actually around Christmas. I was like, no, I'm gonna save it for her birthday. And then I knew it was coming. I was like, her birthday is tomorrow, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, I can't believe it. So I ordered it the day before her birthday. It just did not come until a few days after her birthday. But
I love
do that all the
mindset.
time.
I follow my friend that we like getting presents at random times a little later than like Christmas or birthdays, because it's nice to get a random.
Your birthday's in January, so.
Well, and anytime in January and February is a great time. Oh, thank you. You're welcome. You guys are cool humans. I love it. It's lovely. I mean, it's great that so many good people have been brought into my life by way of wrestling, and it's great that one of the people that got me back into this. I was thinking about this the other day. How much I've since 2016. How many shows, and I mean, notwithstanding the plague, how many shows I've been to in that time frame, but also how much information I've poured into my brain in that time.
It's a lot.
I've read a lot of wrestling books, and I've read a lot of newsletters, and I've listened to a lot of podcasts, and I've watched a lot of matches, two of which I need to give 2 shout outs to the Roads to New Beginning shows. Kosei Fujita versus El Desperado was banger, and ELP and Jeff Cobb.
I need to go back and watch those.
Seek these out.
Yeah,
they're excellent matches.
Yeah.
The Despy Fujita match, Jeff Cobb is also on commentary.
Oh, fantastic! Say
so
less.
It is. As it was put to me, spoiler: Despy versus Kosei Fujita was awesome, and I'll just leave it at that. But I mean, I still just set that stage too. So watch ELP and Jeff Cobb, fantastic, and then watch Fujita and Despy.
I need to watch those.
Yeah, because Road to the Beginnings, the 4th and the 5th, I think, shows. I have them written down as they are in my. I can't believe how many matches of potential matches like already on what is it, February 9th?
Yep.
And I've got like 4.
I need to go watch those matches then. So if I need to update my list, I can.
Definitely, especially the Ichiban Sweet Boy match. But both of those matches are great because I mean Jeff Cobb isn't involved in both. That guy, I swear that guy is like he can do everything.
He can.
He really is amazing. And his I think he does understand some of the Japanese. I really do think that what is fun about this new breed of talent is they're like us, like even what Nikki and I have been doing is, and I committed, I bought the year subscription. So I've got Duolingo. I am on the Japanese now. I'm writing out the characters. I'm talking to the machine now. It's on. It's on like Donkey Kong.
Good.
It's all the stuff that it's definitely your jam. It's wonderful.
I will definitely have to check those out.
I don't want to wreck it. It's so good. Like everything about it is so good. It's that one of those times or a couple of those times where this is why New Japan is so much better than everybody else.
Oh, I can see it. And it was funny because Nikki and I watched last night. Because I didn't get to watch speaking of Strong Style, and so but I did see the clip of them talking about ZSJ versus Goto, which is coming up on the 11th, and why Jeff thinks that why Jeremy thinks that that Goto is going to win, and then Steven was talking about some stuff too. So it's like just to get their perspectives on it, as was cool. And then I was telling Nikki, I was like, that's going to be on obviously like overnight for us. And I was like, and there's going to be like no way to avoid who wins that match. So that's like, we're definitely going to have to make sure
that's tomorrow, isn't it?
Well, it's the 11th in Japan. So yeah, I guess it's overnight. It'll be like late night for us, right? I don't know what time the show.
Tomorrow's the 10th, so it's Tuesday, so it'll be like first thing in the morning or whatever.
Right. So I was like, I
So
probably
be
won't
careful when you
avoid
open your
spoilers.
Twitter on Tuesday.
I probably won't be able to avoid spoilers, but especially because I'm in multiple Slacks.
You have to,
other
and you're in Slacks and stuff because
I
you
have
are
to
actually
be.
working.
So it will probably be spoiled for me.
Sam
But-
shoot works in this stuff.
So I was like, I definitely can't wait to see that. So now I'll make sure that I add those 2 matches in.
Well, and I popped
with
our
it.
YouTube channel on there. Not only should you subscribe and up like it, but we've got a poll on the channel that Speaking of Strong Style is running about whether you think Goto or Zach are like whether or not Goto is going to win or not, which I didn't realize till I was on our channel this morning.
Yeah,
and
I saw it last night. Yeah, because I saw that Garrett said he's going to be utilizing that option with YouTube on the community page now, because you can I've noticed a lot of YouTube channels are doing it, and so now because you can post photos and you can post different things, and so now you can post polls too. So I was like, so if you see them, interact with them, even if it's just up liking them, because obviously we're fighting an algorithm just like everybody else. And yeah, the polls are fun. Yeah, Nikki said she forgot.
Yeah, no, I didn't realize it, but fortunately, because I bring up our live feed so that I can kind of keep up from here, I've got my control center. Thank you, James McDaniel, for your wonderful tips and tricks.
Yes.
But so my, command center set up, and I was on our page, and I was like, wait a minute, there's a poll here for these guys. And I was like, I'm voting in this.
Yeah.
Now I voted with my heart and not my brain, and I hate when Jeremy says stuff like that, because that jerk tends to be right.
Yeah, I went with I voted.
Not really calling Jeremy a jerk. I love him. Okay,
that was a scientific poll that clearly matters who you vote for.
We all know social media polls are the essential empirical evidence for all things.
Yes, I voted for Goto. I was already kind of leaning towards it, because I was like, if they're gonna do it, it has to be now. Like, if they're gonna belt Goto, it has to be now. And so, but then Jeremy made some, and then I was like, let me just listen. Not that it meant, I was like, you know what? Let me just listen to what they have to say. And Jeremy made some good points. And Zach has done everything that Zach can do right now as a champion. And if and I, of course, listen, if Zach retains, like, I will be happy.
Of course.
Clearly, if you have watched this show for 5 minutes, you know that Mel and I are huge Zack Sabre Jr. fans. And so if he wins, I will not be mad. But I love Goto, and Goto has been incredible. And he's always, as they say in the show, he's always the bridesmaid and never the bride. And I feel like if they're going to do it, this is the perfect time to do it. Jeremy,
you guys need to stop convincing me. You know what it is? I always do this with New Japan, though, where it's like, I'm not really upset, and Goto will be great, and it will be awesome, and it will continue to be fine, and I'll love it.
Even if he's a transitional champion, which they talk about how transitional champion is treated as a dirty word. Yeah, and at least watch the clip on there, because they talk about how transitional champion is treated like a dirty word, and in some cases, but to how people are treated as transitional champions, you could make that case for Private Party being transitional champions and how that didn't work out so well.
Depends on how you book it.
And it's also New Japan, and typically, when there's a transitional champion, there's a reason behind that, and it makes sense. And so, but again, go watch that clip, because Jeremy explains it, much better. And then especially it's because he is watching these shows, he is watching.
Well, that's what they do on our network. That's
right.
Those are our go-to guys.
Those are, and I love watching their show. I know I put it over all the time, but go check. Even if you don't watch the whole show, check out that clip and just listen to. And even if you don't agree, like Jeremy makes some really good points about it. And yeah, the same way, I don't want him to lose either. However, if he's not losing to one of the younger guys that they're trying to build up, if that's not the route they're going, then Goto, I think, makes the most sense. Yeah. Nikki said, I get it though.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to, Nikki said that, she said, man, Walker was saying that we were having a ball when ELP came out during Wrestle Kingdom. It's still making me laugh. Yes, me too. And she said, going back to the Duolingo, she said, I understood the conversation they made me listen to, and I was so happy I could keep up with it, because I usually can't, because Nikki's been doing Duolingo for Japanese, to learn Japanese as well.
I did for a long time, and then I stopped, and now I'm going back because I'm trying to plan a trip, and I really want to make sure that I can at least have and I didn't forget as much as I thought, and I'm committed. I'm like, and I like actually the paid one. You can they have you writing out the characters and everything, which is useful for me because I like linguistics a lot. So
yeah, that's really cool.
It's so much easier to learn, obviously, and I'm going to say something that's but it's so much easier to learn all the Latin-based languages because that's what we speak. And once you start, when you start to understand the breakdown of linguistics and stuff, when you're learning these kinds of languages, because it's really hard. That's why I think what Chris Charlton does in terms of being able to translate like that.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
On the spot, too.
It's so hard to translate our two languages into each other because of how we speak and how our alphabets are. And it's amazing that either of us can learn each other's languages at all once you start to get to it. And I'm sure Nikki feels me but it makes it interesting because you start to really pay attention to what people say and where things come from.
Yeah.
And it's fun when you have that moment where you're like, I understand.
Brad says that, going back to the Despy Fujita match, he says the wild thing about Despy versus Fujita is that as great as it was, there were 2 to 3 matches even better on the Stardom show from the day before, and Japanese wrestling is greater than everything else right now.
Yeah, that's my big dilemma right now is that I'm always New Japan is back to being the better, more what I want to watch, more what I'm seeking out. I'm still watching live, obviously, on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Not always on Saturday directly, but mostly, but definitely on Wednesday.
Have been really good the last couple of weeks.
They have. They've been
improving. It feels like they are finally getting back to what makes them good. And
played a couple of places that actually had a heartbeat for a change.
Because definitely. That crowd in Houston was incredible. So I can't wait to watch those ROH shows because when they're in Houston and in front of just various crowds in Texas, they seem to really be, and I know they pack it with luchas, which yay for me because I love watching Lucha Libre.
And you got that Super Destroyer last night.
I did. I was and then I already saw a spoiler for next week's ROH. They brought Fuego back in, Fuego del Sol, who I love because I used to watch Sammy Guevara's podcast, YouTube show a lot, and Fuego was there a lot. And so when Fuego, nice. When he finally got signed, I've been watching him on there and watching. So that was a huge thing for Nikki and I because we were watching the podcast. Watching his YouTube show. And so to kind of see Fuego get that moment, and then he did end up getting cut and has been killing it in GCW and on the indies. And so, but ROH has brought him in a couple times when they've been in Texas. And so I was really excited to see that they brought him in. And apparently from what he was saying, he said he got a lot of Fuego chants, which he said it made him feel really good that, the ROH fans remembered him and stuff. So I thought that was really cool. But Japan does have, and that's another thing. I know what's going to happen. I'm going to watch these Japanese matches and I'm going to be like, when do I have time to watch more Japanese wrestling? Because a certain other company that I get paid to watch is taking up a lot of my time.
Yeah, and they added from everybody's, from what I do watch and read, nobody's excited about that extra hour of SmackDown at this point, from what I can tell.
It is a chore to get through.
My anecdotal evidence from the way that people are talking on content and on social is nobody likes it.
No, they've already said it's going back to 2 hours, but I think it's not till June. It's sometime this summer. It's going back to 2 hours. The third hour obviously is because they lost Raw and Raw went to Netflix, so they needed that extra hour of advertising. Or an extra hour of advertising goes, and I know that's why they did it, but it's a chore to get through. I ended up having to do live coverage on Friday because the woman who normally does was sick, and so it wasn't as hard. I was dreading it because I was like, oh my god, live coverage is already difficult enough as it is, and I was like, the one thing about WWE is their pacing is slower, so. It's not like Collision where Collision has 15 multi-man matches, and I was like, there's so much happening.
I'm hearing things like people are like having entrances that are like, 10-minute entrances or 6-minute entrances.
The entrances are ridiculous. One of the couple so this actually Friday's episode was not so bad because they're building towards the elimination chamber and they were having qualifying matches. So luckily, if I had to cover anything, luckily that wasn't too bad and it didn't drag like it normally does. The few positive things about this being 3 hours is some of the women's matches have gotten more time, which is really nice to see. And that's pretty much what we've all been in agreement on is like, at least the women are getting some longer matches. Otherwise, this stuff is a chore to get through. And then I'll just jokingly be like, hey, we made it a half hour in, only 2.5 hours to go. And so it can be a lot. Some weeks it's a lot to get through, especially because it's just repetitive things. And yeah, it can be. And it's a lot of promo time for people I don't care for. And it's just, it can be.
Yeah, that's tough because like New Japan and the Japanese wrestling stardom, it's matches. It's not a ton of time. I mean, they cut promos. It's not like they don't. It's
right. But the backstage promos in New Japan are way more entertaining than what
and they do it as a separate. I feel like they do it as a separate thing from the actual show because that's again what gives it that more sport-like quality where you have the post-game press conference as opposed to the in-ring promo cutting so much. And I mean, gosh, some of Zach's best work was done on those backstage segments. Unbelievable. When he was railing against Brett, that was some of my favorite work.
Yeah, the George Michael stuff.
Oh man,
his dreams he was having with George of George Michael. Those some of my favorite promos and favorite things that Zach was doing, besides railing against the British government.
Yeah, that was
always entertaining as well. And Zach's just, I mean, obviously, as we are. Fernando says he hopes Zach wins, and me too. But also Goto. But also I love Goto. So, but yeah, New Japan they're great and doing a lot of really cool things that I enjoy. And then it's definitely, I mean, of course, AEW has a lot of things I enjoy, some things that I don't. And then WWE is like the opposite end of the spectrum where there's a handful of things that I like. And then a lot of things that I don't care for. And there's a lot of things in my wrestling that, especially like, it gets repetitive because they cut the same promo every single week. And it's the same. And like, it's just the build, like, it can just be a lot. But the one of the positive things, obviously, that one thing I missed the most, like when I wasn't watching WWE, is I really missed Kevin Owens. And so at least I'm getting him.
At least that's something.
Right. And they're really pushing him. He did end up re-signing his contract, which I thought that way back when they started the storyline about how his contract was coming up and he didn't know if he was going to stay. Like I assumed then that he signed. But then I did go back and watch that match and I was like, well, I mean, if they wanted to send Kevin Owens off, like if that was his final match, like I could see how that would. And then he turned around on Monday night and turned on Sami Zayn again, but in a way that works. It's not a repetitive thing. And he explained it on Friday night, like his reasoning behind it, which was really well thought out. So like this feud's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And so then Kevin did resign. He officially announced like he did resign for like 5 more years, which just selfishly, I wanted him in AEW because I didn't get to see Mount Rushmore the first time around. So I wanted to see it now. But at least in WWE, at least currently, Kevin is a big focus and he's somebody that gets featured a lot. So at least I have that to look forward to on SmackDown is Kevin Owens. And that's what, he's doing incredible work right now. So there's good stuff everywhere. It's just some companies have more good stuff and more stuff that I like than other companies.
It's just tricky when you get to certain parts of the year because you're going back and forth between the shows. And so it's way more starkly like if it spread out, I'm not saying you don't notice, you did still notice, but when it's like I watched a New Japan show at 11 o'clock this morning and then I had to watch a WWE show or even a mediocre AEW show or something like that. And it's like, you start to be like, New Japan does a better job than you. Yeah. And it's like, stop that. You can't do that. Don't do that to yourself.
Yeah. And especially because, and then it's, this time I'm going, and it's like last year, like I'm going into Mania season again, like knowing all the storylines and things like that. I can see how things are playing out and things like that. So but I'm still more excited for all the shows that are going on around it. Like that's going to be what I like to dedicate my time to. But now I have to watch like SmackDown. Like I would have to be on SmackDown duty on the night before Mania, and I was like, I know there's going to be shows I'd rather be watching, and so it is a very first world problem, and I get it, but it is what it is.
It is what it is, but we're on our show, so we can whine about it.
Yeah, and so we will keep it. We will get to AEW, but we are going to keep it WWE focused a while longer because we already had something we were going to talk about, and then Friday night some things started happening in real time. So real quick, I will get to the. There was if you watched last week's show, I was talking about the Ring Boys lawsuit, how it was on pause and it could be paused up until August 31st, and turns out that's no longer the case. Just a few days after that, the Maryland, so it was on hold because the Maryland Supreme Court was reviewing the Child Victim Act of 2023 to see if it could uphold, because there was a law that was set forward in 2017, but it was a new one was set forth in 2023 where victims of child sex abuse could not only go after the perpetrator, but after entities as well. One of the bigger entities that they were looking at was the Catholic Church. And so that's
the
kind
end
of
of statute of limitations, which used to be
they also did that.
It's been like 7 years, you can't do it. It's like no.
Right. And so now and then entity would include WWE. And so Brandon Thurston of WrestleMania gave an explanation, and again he clarifies that he's not a lawyer, but BJ also vouched for what he said, and it helped kind of explain it a little bit more. And so he said, so after passing a law in 2017 that allowed child victims of alleged sexual abuse to sue institutions up to 20 years after they got up to 20 years after their 18th birthday. One of the institutions in question was the Archdiocese of Baltimore. But the 2023 law eliminated the time limits. So that's obviously what the question was. So as Thurston pointed out, the challenge in front of the court was if the 2017 law established a state of repose, meaning it granted parties like churches, schools, or WWE permanent irreversible immunity from being sued in such cases after the complainants turned age 38. Monday's ruling means that the plaintiffs may sue defendants for liability no matter how long ago the abuse occurred. And he said, and so that's basically what this law decided. So yes, they can be, there's no longer time limits, and they can also include entities in their lawsuit. So this allows the Ring Boys lawsuit to move forward because the Ring Boys lawsuit not only names Vince and Linda McMahon, but also WWE and TK Holdings, because TK Holdings is they're the overall owner of the WWE. And so this law says, yes, you can sue all of them, not just the McMahons. And so that's kind of as far as we've gotten is, I don't know what the next steps are, but I did reach out to the law firm on Tuesday, and Greg Gutzler, he's a partner at the DeSello Levitt law firm, but he is actually also the lead attorney on the Ring Boys case. And so he provided me with a quote on Tuesday. He said, the Maryland Supreme Court's decision upholding the Maryland Child Victims Act, effectively eliminating any statute of limitations on child sex abuse lawsuits, is the right one, and we hope other states will follow Maryland's lead. Survivors of sexual assault, especially children, often do not come forward for years or even decades after the abuse occurred. This delayed discourse happens for numerous reasons: shame, fear, manipulation, and it has too often prevented survivors from ever seeking justice and getting accountability. It also has allowed perpetrators to continue hurting countless innocent people. My clients' lives were destroyed by the defendants who allowed and enabled the open, rampant sexual abuse to occur for years. The abuse inflicted on my clients was inexcusable. They were mere children and had the right to expect that WWE executives would take action to protect them from the predators working within the WWE. We will bring light to their truth and fight for accountability and justice. So that's where things stand as of right now. They did also send out a press release and mentioned that other people have come forward they've been discussing some things. It doesn't. So this is people that could potentially be added to the lawsuit. It's also people that can potentially corroborate what these 5 are saying. And so this is definitely something to watch, because this is something. So this is now 2 active lawsuits against the WWE and Vince McMahon. And then each lawsuit both has, names other defendants in it as well. And then I did see Brandon Thurston said the other day that I believe Linda McMahon's Senate confirmation hearing is on the 13th. Donald Trump had named her previously as putting her in the Department of Education. And from what I was told, a lot of the people in the political circle were blindsided by the lawsuit because they had no clue that it was happening, because they don't pay attention to the wrestling world. And didn't know this was a thing. And so I'm sure this lawsuit, and now that it can move forward, I'm sure somebody is going to bring that up during these confirmation hearings.
Hard to gauge, but from the sounds of politics social media, I think 47 is trying to distance himself from her some. So this might be having an effect, which I guess would be nice, because it would keep her away from an already terrible situation. But I mean, get these kids justice.
Yes,
so gross. This is yet another lawsuit that was unbearable to read and was completely they should be named in the lawsuit. This just another example of them doing, Vince and his cronies doing what they do.
And then this also includes Linda. And the story for years, has alleged that Linda brought Mel Phillips he had been fired, and she brought him back 6 weeks later. And one of the things was under the fact that he was to steer clear of young boys. So, and again, that's all alleged, but that has been something that's been around since the 90s. So, because, somebody was like, well, maybe, I don't want to hold Linda responsible for, what her husband did. But in this situation, if that is correct, Linda is the one who brought Mel Phillips back into the fold 6 weeks after he was fired. And the abuse continued. So that is definitely, all of this is stuff to keep in mind. But since we literally just talked about it on Sunday, and then Monday we got, an answer. So that's as of things so I don't know, what their schedule is as far as when the lawsuit, what happens next, but they do have the approval to move forward. So that'll be something else we'll be keeping an eye on and talking about. And then while we're on the subject of WWE, and I hate going into this because this stuff that happened on Friday is not the same as what we were just talking about, but since we're all on the same, we're talking about it. So I do want to bring it up. They started cutting people on Friday night. As SmackDown was happening, we started getting reports like of people who had been cut from the company. The first one, actually, I saw it right before SmackDown, or right around SmackDown had just started. I guess a few other writers had seen it just before. One of those people was Cedric Alexander. He tweeted, and I should have had the tweet ready, and I forgot because I was getting ready for Darius, and I forgot. But he thanked WWE for 8.5 great years, and he said he's going to keep doing this as long as the good Lord lets his body continue doing these things. And he said, see you in 90 days. So that would put him. That was February 7th. That would put him May 7th is when he will be opened up for stuff. Then as the night went on, we found out some other names. I'm going to try to remember these off the top of my head. I should have pulled the list up, and earlier I was like, oh, let me get that list, and I forgot. So that was the first one. Sonya Deville, her contract, it turns out her contract was coming up for renewal, and they decided not to renew it. And apparently the day before, she had been doing media for WWE, putting over the women's division. And the very next day, she was informed that her contract would not be renewed. She did not outside. I mean, she was featured on TV some because she was in the Pure Fusion Collective trios, but she wasn't wrestling often. She did wrestle. All three members were in the Royal Rumble last Saturday. But outside of her and Cedric, most of the people that got released.
Well, the Good Brothers versus.
Yeah, I was gonna say they had not. Well, I'll get to it, but they had not been. That's okay, but they had not been active outside. Okay. But Cedric was featured on NXT almost every single week.
Yeah, that's a
and
weird
he was very involved. Yeah, so that one, and he just re-signed with them last year, so that was a really surprising thing. And he was considered a Triple H guy because back in the CWC, the fans chanted, "Please sign Cedric." Triple H comes from behind the curtain. Clearly is taking it all in, puts his arm around Cedric, and they did eventually sign him. So he was always kind of seen as a Triple H guy because of that moment. So it's interesting that under Triple H, he unfortunately got cut when they were using him on NXT pretty regularly. Like he just had a match with, I think he just had a match with Ethan Page. Like if it wasn't this past Tuesday, it was the Tuesday before. And he's been doing stuff with Javon Evans because Javon is also from Charlotte. And so they had been doing some stuff together. With them. And so then Sonya, again, like I said, she'd been used some on and off. And then, like you said, the Good Brothers, they were released. I didn't realize that Carl Anderson has been injured this whole time and is still injured. And it is rare for them to release somebody who is injured. So from what I saw, they were working to find out more details about that, but they haven't been on TV, and I should look, but I can't even remember the last time they were on TV because they had even been kind of kept away from AJ has missed time as well because he was injured, but even when AJ was active, they weren't out. Sometimes they were out there with them, but I can't even remember the last time that they were on TV. And I had forgotten that Carl is injured. And then they also released Giovanni Vinci, who was part of Imperium split. They did continue to use Ludwig Kaiser. Giovanni, they showed some vignettes that led to a couple squat. He got beaten a couple times by I think it was Apollo Crews, and then he just disappeared. So they weren't using him. There was no direction for him. Alba Fire was off. No, I'm sorry. Isla Dawn says that she was released, and she and Alba Fire held the women's tag team titles just a few months ago. But had not been used really as of late. But Isla has been, as far as we know, it was just Isla. Alba Fire appears to still be in the company, so that's kind of interesting. And then Blair Davenport, which is the former Bea Priestley, they just really never did anything with her. She was doing some stuff in NXT. She got called up she was drafted to SmackDown, and they used her maybe twice. And apparently there had been some rumors that they were going to try to bring her in with Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. That was the conversation that came up in mid-January, and then clearly nothing ever happened with that. And Blair Davenport was released as well. I think that's everybody that I can remember off the top of my head. I believe that too. And as far as I have not heard of any further releases, so I believe at this time that's everybody. But I mean, Mania season is typically when cuts happen. We typically see them right after WrestleMania, but it's also after the draft, which is another time that we typically see releases. But there's been apparently some people think that the reason some of these wrestlers were cut is because NXT is about to get a new crop of talent being brought in, and so they're making space
because of the evolution or the evolve.
Well, the evolve thing, but also I guess people that have been in the PC and stuff, they're ready. Get caught up. Then they've also got TNA wrestlers who are involved in things like that. So there's a lot going on, but unfortunately, some people lost their jobs on Friday, and that's never something that we want to celebrate. When they're being let go for those reasons. So they're being let go for some other reasons. That's a totally different thing. But unfortunately, quite a few people found themselves out of work over the weekend. Brad says, "Dear Tony, as 90 days, please not bring in everyone who's released. The roster is good enough already. If you want to bring anybody in, Kevin Knight is there. Oh, wow, that's interesting. NXT wrestler Elektra Lopez was just announced being cut. Elektra Lopez is prominently she's in Legado del Fantasma, the main roster on SmackDown. She has been basically their manager. And she was just on TV Friday night. She got in Motor City Machine Gun's faces backstage because she's with Los Garza and Santos Escobar. So I'm a little surprised by that. I mean, they weren't using her as a wrestler. I guess maybe in NXT they were using her as a wrestler, but on SmackDown she was only used in a main entry. Oh, I completely forgot. I knew I was forgetting people. AOP and Paul Ellering.
Oh, that's it. Yep.
They all got released. First, it came out first that Paul Ellering had been released, and then AOP was announced right after. They had been part of the Final Testament, but they had kind of been focusing more just on Karrion Kross. They did some stuff with Scarlett too, but Scarlett's been off. They wrote her off of TV within a storyline. They were telling Karrion Kross has been the focus. They haven't used AOP in quite a while. They were using them some with the Wyatt Six story. But the Wyatt Six they've got moved over to SmackDown. So yeah, AOP they just weren't doing anything with, and the same thing with Paul Ellering. But it sounds like from the way Paul Ellering tweeted yesterday, it sounds like the three of them are going to continue. I guess like maybe on the Indies or something like that. It sounds like so. That's a really interesting thing. I'll go back up to this comment. Maria says Cedric is totally reuniting with the Hurt Syndicate. I don't know about that. We've talked about this before. There was a lot of
his wife.
Yes, his wife Tony Khan was.
I was remembering right.
Rude. Yes, extremely rude and unprofessional when it came to Big Swole and A, her release, and then B, following her release, the way he spoke about her publicly. I get like it's hard to say because we've talked about this before. In wrestling. There's only a few places you can work on TV and only a few places that offer similar money to WWE, and he has a child to take care of. So and in wrestling, never say never, because I mean, look, CM Punk went back to WWE and we didn't think that was going to happen. Sting came back and he got to have, a final career. So it's wrestling, never say never. I would say, and again, I don't know anything. I would say that it's less likely. Unless, maybe a public apology would go a long way. A personal one-on-one apology might go a long way. A nice paycheck would probably go a long way. So I don't want to make assumptions.
Healthcare and a salary goes a long
way.
Right.
So, and again, right. And he's got a child. And you have to think about.
I mean, he is a good wrestler. Like I am amazing. A huge Cedric Alexander fan. Obviously, I mean, for those of you who've watched us know that Sam and I both were the people that stayed for 205 Live when we went.
Yes, we did. I am wearing my Cedric shirt today. This is PWX Indies Cedric Alexander.
When I was really excited about him, a friend of mine put me on to George South, having him wrestle in a freaking county fair parking lot, essentially a grass parking lot. I'm like,
yep, George South was that's who trained Cedric.
Well, the way I sort of got introduced to him was because I liked him so much. My friend was like, okay, you got this guy's crazy, but he also trained him. And he's like, you got to watch this parking lot thing that he did, which was amazing. And of course it was totally in my wheelhouse, completely love it. I'd love to see him wrestle. There's some amazing talent on, like Brad said, the roster is already stacked.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you're going to bring him in to put him on with a group. That's probably the best case scenario.
And I wouldn't be surprised if the members of the Hurt Syndicate make a play, like want him to come in. So
I mean, we'll see. That's the only one.
He's the one that I have been wanting personally, just as a fan of Cedric, somebody who used to pay. I used to pay $5 to go see him wrestle in a rec center at the beginning of his career. So this is somebody I've watched for a very long time, and I watched him become tag team champions with Caleb Conley, and they were, and I watched their feud. I watched Cedric become PWX champion. I saw him, he brought his pregnant wife into the ring. I know his wife. I know both of them. This is somebody I've watched. But for me, if he goes to AEW, I would love to see him there. There's a lot of matches I'd like him to see. But me personally, as a wrestling fan, I'd love to see him in New Japan. I would love if the time. I think the timing is gonna. They haven't given a start date. We have an end date, so I don't know if his 90 days will be up. But if he's available, I would love to see him in Best of Super Juniors. That's where I really I could see him thriving with Haramu, Despy.
That could be a good job for him for now. Anyway, I mean, at least for now, get in there and
I know. And again, it is hard because he has a daughter. To travel to Japan and to wrestle a long period of time, maybe for a tournament, maybe that's not too bad. I mean, of course it would be rough, but and I get it. So I know that there's those things too, as far as when it comes.
Plus,
to
there's
Japan.
economics involved because a lot of yen is not a lot of American dollars right now.
Right. So there's a ton of factors, but if it worked out, I would love to see him there. Somebody even told me they'd love to see him against somebody like Shingo. He's wrestled Zach. He wrestled Zach in PWX. He wrestled Zach on the Indies. I went the other day. He wrestled because their paths didn't cross in the CWC, but they have wrestled 5 times on the Indies. So I'd like to see him with it. Of course, if Kevin Knight is there, love to see Cedric and Kevin Knight, Cedric and Kushida. There's all these matches that I would love for Cedric to do. I would even be down for a world tour like Mustafa did. I would put, where he just goes, he would be incredible in Deadlock Pro with the talent that's there.
There you go.
I of course want to see him in Ashe. He's from here in Charlotte. Cedric was a mentor of Darius's. So I hope that we see him in Ashe. I would love.
Well, Defy is killing it right now.
Yeah,
Maybe you can go book out there. Ricky Starks just won their championship.
Right. Yeah. So Cedric and Ricky Starks would be.
I'm in.
Match. Yeah,
so,
and hopefully
is in seat.
Hopefully somewhere. I know that Kota Ibushi is not the Kota Ibushi he was back when they had their classic match in the CWC, but he has been better as of late. And if anybody can pull a good match out of Kota Ibushi, maybe it will not be quite the level of the classic that they had in 2017 or 2016, whatever year that was. But if anybody can pull a good match, I would love to see Kota and Cedric run it back somewhere. It could potentially be AEW there, if things work out and Cedric, ends up in AEW and Kota finds his way back there. Kota is still under contract with AEW from what I understand. So, but literally I will take that match anywhere, wherever this match wants to happen, or if they can do it, if they run it back, I would love to see it. So Cedric is somebody, he's out of this group of people. Cedric is, obviously just because he's been one of my favorites for over a decade, and I would love to see. I hope he does well, whether that's in AEW, New Japan. There is TNA, but that was associated with WWE, so I don't know how that works. But wherever Cedric goes, I will be watching. And like Nikki said, him versus Calvin Tankman. Shut up and take my money. Yes, Calvin Tankman is wherever Calvin is, but Calvin is a standout in Deadlock Pro, and I love that. Oh my God, yes. Cedric and Speedball. Really. Yes, please. Shut up and take my money. Even if that doesn't happen in an AEW ring, that is a WrestleMania weekend match all over it. That's a dream match, right? Right there.
Pretty dream matchy.
It's fun to fantasy book Cedric because I have missed being able to see him.
I think that's probably the reason that you know.
Yes. 704 was the name of that was Caleb and Cedric's tag team.
Nice.
And that's so that was like some of the earlier stuff that we got to see.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm interested to see what happens there, but he's the only person out of that whole crop that I even please just leave everybody. Tony's got plenty to focus on. He doesn't need to be signing any.
Right. And I will echo what Brad says. I would bring, if he's going to bring in anybody,
Kevin Knight.
And Lyric made and Lyric has, I think, has said this before, but she said it again over the weekend. She's like, if they're bringing in anybody into the Hurt Syndicate, it should be somebody younger. And a guy like Kevin Knight would be somebody who would be a good fit for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and Brad says they were, my friend Doug said the exact same thing. These releases were done just in time to miss Mania weekend. They knew what they were doing.
Yeah, you don't have to pay people. Are you kidding?
Right. Well, they can't, but then they can't get paid. They can't go WrestleMania
for somebody else either.
Right.
The timing is they're just screwed. They're screwed out of all those independent bookings they could have gotten that weekend that aren't, so they can't run up against. You can't
tell me that those promotions would not be trying to, a lot of those promotions.
Oh my God, are you serious? Of course. There's like 10 promotions around it.
There's Ashe, there's For the Culture, Defy has a show out there. I think Prestige does, West Coast Pro, Deadlock is doing a show.
Gallows and Anderson would easily do a Bloodsport. Like,
I could see
put together talking shop
with Mike Gilbert, who said
Mike Gilbert Gallows Place, I think.
Right. You could do I'm sure maybe we'll get Talking Shop-A-Mania. Was this 3, 4? They've had 3, right? Or is it 2 Talking Shop-A-Mania?
2. So it would be 3.
3. I'm sure that's coming when Carl is healed.
I'm fine with that.
I mean, Mike Gilbert said that they should get the Elite back together with Carl, with the Good Brothers, and they should take down the Death Riders. And he said, who said no? And JD said me, and I said also me.
I actually said also me. So
I mean, outside of Talking Shop-A-Mania, I don't really need to see.
Yeah, I don't need them on AEW anymore. Plus, they kind of buried the company when they left.
They did, and their shtick is just, I can only handle it for like small amounts.
We already have FTR. We don't need.
And it was oh my God! And they're trying to get back in the title scene, according to that promo they cut last night. So yeah, so interesting times in the wrestling.
Because Tony is more of a wrestling fan than a businessman sometimes, and I hate that.
Yeah, and of course people get paid. There's finite places that you can wrestle. Like I get it.
Yeah. I mean,
and I don't think these are probably if they have released Elektra, then it sounds like releases may not be done yet. And I do expect more, even if they're done for now. I expect more after Mania, because that's typically when they always do them. I think it's probably something to do with like the quarterlies and how they, how in the business world, how that stuff that goes.
They're so shitty. WWE is just so, it's like, I think they've won like shitty practice of the year every year in the Observer since like 1990.
I mean, we all saw what happened during the pandemic, where I constantly, it felt like every other week I was writing an article about wrestlers getting cut during the pandemic.
I was talking about Janelle's case with someone recently, and I said that I'm not saying that Vince is the Caligula of like pro wrestling, but he kind of is. And he sent me a poster from an old Royal Rumble of like it was like Vince with Stephanie on one side and Shane on the other, and he was literally in like the gladiator gear. And I was like, "Is this fake?" And he's like, well, actually, what he said was, I remember hating that poster. And I was like, I thought that was fake. He's like, yeah, because you couldn't believe they were that on the nose, could you? I was like, man, God bless you. I'm glad you're getting paid. I know that you are only doing it because you are gainfully employed to do so. So, you are... good for you. You are
it sounds like
trooper. Thank God there's good wrestling in your world to balance it out.
Right. Blair Fernando says that Blair could be Davenport could be a huge star in TNA. It sounds like she's headed back to Japan, because she tweeted yesterday and said Top Guy Gene. So it sounds like
she may as well. I mean, why not? That's where she was.
Or maybe that's just where she's headed to for now, and maybe she doesn't want to be associated with TNA because they're involved with WWE. There's that possibility as well. I mean, who knows? Maybe she does.
We've got TJPW and Stardom. She was the Stardom Red Belt champion for a while, so.
Mm-hmm. And Stardom, I think, quote tweeted her yesterday or said something about her. Yeah, was talking about her.
I mean, I think she has a lot of pals that way.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see her go back to
That'd be good.
But she could wind up in TNA. I could definitely see that happening too. Maria said hilarious. Talk about that poster.
Yeah, it was on the nose. Maybe I'll share it on our socials. Maybe I won't.
Yes,
I don't want to get maybe I will.
On the one hand, you don't want to promote that man's face,
but it's an old one.
I hate having to use his picture.
Well, no, but it's for everything we've been talking about. It's scarily appropriate.
Yeah,
it's disgustingly appropriate. So I think that it wouldn't be.
So it would be.
It would be in the context of us. It would not be putting him over in any way.
Right? Oh no, not at all.
We are not sharing this for that reason.
No.
For those of you who know us, if you know, you know.
Right. All right. I know this is Super Bowl Sunday, and we're still keeping you with our pre show.
Yep.
But we will switch gears to AEW now, because by this time next Sunday, we will have Grand Slam Australia will have happened, and I didn't think about getting graphics together because I was like, it's not technically a pay-per-view. Like, it is as some friends have pointed out, Grand Slam is a TV show with pay-per-view level matches. So I guess we're not technically treating it like a pay-per-view. But also earlier in the week, we were low, knock on wood, we were low on news. So it's like, well, by the time this airs, and Grand Slam is the big deal. It's something we've been talking about. Oh, Mel's on it.
So when I saw that you had listed the matches, I was like, oh crap. Did I need
Well, that's what I was thinking last night. I was like, so I don't forget what matches, because I think there's only 5 or 6 matches announced. I won't be surprised if anything gets announced. It's 5. But when I was I put those matches in at like 1:30 this morning. And then as I was putting them, I was like, I don't have graphics. But I was like, it's not technically a pay-per-view, so I guess it would be fine. But we're previewing it because that's the big thing that's happening, and not a pay-per-view, and apparently was never going to be a pay-per-view. And I don't know why Tony didn't just say that in November when he was asked on the media call point blank, is this a pay-per-view? He should have just said, no, it's not a pay-per-view.
You ask him if it was a pay-per-view?
I didn't ask him. Somebody else on the same call.
You were going to ask, and someone beat you to
it. I tweeted, I remembered it coming up, and so I went and found it in my thread. I was like, these are the times I'm glad that I live tweet these calls, so I can go back and say, here is what happened in real time. This was Tony's response. So, so that's it. Thank you, Maria. She said that this is better than any Super Bowl pre-show, and Riri says that where she talking about Blair ends up in Japan depends on whether her loyal is to Rossi or the starter roster in general. I thought about Marigold, but I was like, Stardom might be it. But yeah, Rossi is the big factor with that, where she goes. That's a really good point. I would not be surprised if he makes a big play for her. Maria is right. There has been some negative discourse around Grand Slam, which is unfortunate. I think maybe now that we have a card, we know for sure that it's not a pay-per-view. And I guess even understand their reasoning for putting it after the All-Star game, which for me is not great because I still have to do live coverage. So I don't get to, I don't know if this game's going to end at 10, if it's going to end at 10:30. I'll probably be covering wrestling until 2:00 in the morning and then come do this show. It's like Wrestle Kingdom.
Is committed, people. You better be following her. She is putting out content all the dang time. And she's staying up till 2 a.m. to watch a not pay-per-view.
At least I think
I'm to me, this seems like
matches. At least
this is one of those things that we talk about all the time with their promotion and the way that it's like clear. Why was this not cleared up? Like,
I don't know if it's for the fans who were in Australia and he was trying to sell tickets and that's why he didn't clear it up. But
that feels disingenuous and bait and switchy, and you're trying to be in a new market.
It feels carny, but wrestling is carny.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I get both things. I do, but it is in the vein of past Grand Slams. We do get pay-per-view level matches, but I think being in a new market and being on a Saturday, of course people assumed it was a pay-per-view, because why wouldn't you? Especially when the owner of the company doesn't say when asked point blank, is this a pay-per-view? And he doesn't say, but then comes around and says it was never going to be a pay-per-view. Well, then why didn't you say that in November when you were asked about it? This would have saved a lot of confusion and saved a lot of negativity around your show, as Maria mentioned. And then Brad also brings up a good point. So the Grand Slam card is awesome, which I would agree with. So I'm very glad, at least if I have to stay up, I'm glad this is what I'm covering. I love that every match has a Kiwi in it, and they all feel like they belong in the match and not shoehorned just because they're in Australia. Everything makes sense, which, unless some people may make the argument against Harley Cameron, but we talked about that before. Everything that Harley is doing with Mercedes is because Mercedes wants her to. They train together.
I love it. It's amazing.
Yeah, and
Harley is my new best friend. She is like my favorite carny in the world. She can do it all.
She is. She kills it. I love that they let her showing her various talents with singing and the ventriloquism and all these things it lets her, but it's not in like it's not done in, I mean, of course it's comedic, but not in a way that's stupid or is making fun of her. Like it just makes her
it's way
cool.
More like it's vaudeville, it's Ren
cool.
Fair.
Like not only like she's picked up wrestling so quickly because she's good at singing and she can do ventriloquism. Like of course she's picked up wrestling really quickly. Like that, it just she's like
already doing all the other carny tricks now. She's just a wrestler
right,
too.
She just added wrestling to it.
Seriously, that song was like when she was doing that song, I was like, she could play a Ren Fair.
She could. And her songs they're funny and they're witty and you have to pay attention. And like her promos are like that too, because she just sneaks things into her promos all the time. And you can see Renee trying her best not to break live on camera. And then she got and Mercedes played along with it really well last night. I thought the Harley halftime show in Houston was funny. It didn't take out, it didn't take up too much time. It didn't take away from Collision. It built the story with Mercedes. You got your champ out there in front of a live crowd, and it built them at they did it really well. It handled it very, very well. So I thought it served its purpose.
The women's division is actually kind of it's the best part of the show right now.
Right.
I mean, with Mariah and Tony doing what they're doing, and then Thunder Rosa looked great last night. I think that's probably her best.
I'm glad to see Penelope getting involved more. I'd like to see more Penelope. And the match was a little slow in places, but Penelope, this is her first match of 2025. She only wrestled a couple times last year. It's going to take her some time to get into it, but putting her in there with Thunder Rosa, who is a former women's champion, I think is smart. And then you have Megan Bain come out last night, and she just murders somebody. Or no, it was Thunder Rosa, right? But she came out and early. So just having Megan Bain involved, and the way they're presenting her is really. And they had her working with Penelope, which just kind of made me laugh because Penelope used to be with Joe. She was Joey Janela's partner, and now Megan Bain is. So I thought that was kind of a funny. I don't know if that was the purposeful, tongue-in-cheek little moment having Penelope help his current girlfriend, but it made me laugh. I was like, I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it made it laugh. I see Brad said the same thing. Anyone finding it interesting that the Megan and Penelope had a segment together, the Joey Janela connection? That yes. I didn't
know that. I don't usually know the
when Joey and Penelope were signed to AEW, or were in the beginning at All In, the very first All In, they were in a relationship, and Penelope used to come out with Joey and used to get involved in his matches, and she used to help him, and then now her and Joey, Penelope and Megan Bain and Joey tag sometimes in GCW. So they do some stuff there. So Brad, you're not the only one, because I caught that too. Again, I don't know if that was something on purpose or if it just happened to be something that they did, but I definitely noticed it. Yes, me too. Megan versus Thunder Rosa is going to be fun.
Yeah.
And agree. Yeah, that I think we're all on the same page here. And then Fernando says, after the match, I like to see Harley and Mercedes become a tandem like Swerve and Prince Nana. Ooh, that would be fun. That's interesting. And then I wanted to come back up here because Fernando had mentioned that Tony should have scheduled Grand Slam better. Why book it the same day? They wanted the lead in. That's what they did they've done that before. TNT has actually asked for, I think TNT has also asked for it, not just Tony. But they want the lead in from the NBA All-Star crowd, does not change the channel immediately and go into wrestling, and hopefully convert some of those viewers over. But Brad also makes a good point. It comes down to when the network wanted the show and when the Australian government wanted the show, since they asked for it, which I think I often forget that as well. So those are both
Time
good
change.
points. Yeah.
Time difference. Huge time difference. I can't.
Yeah.
It's got to be like close to Japan, right? Like 12 hours or some silly thing.
Something like that. Yeah.
Because I think Japan is like 12 or 14 hours ahead of where we are.
I believe they're 14. So I think Australia is like the same or very
close.
Similar. Yes. But we will go through this card that we're getting at whatever time we're getting it.
Whatever time
we're getting it. And if you
whatever
don't
o'clock.
You can always come look at my live coverage, because I'll be there doing that. And so last night it was made
keep Sam awake. Help her stay awake
or this week rather. Yes, exactly. I probably can't respond to you because I'll be doing live coverage and I can't respond usually in real time, because usually in the breaks I'm having to get set up for the next match, or I have to go run and take a quick bathroom break before it comes back. But so we have Kazuchika Okada is defending his title against Buddy Matthews. They've been going back and forth the last couple of weeks. Buddy Matthews told Okada last week that he was a bitch in front of Lexi Nair, and then he turned around and looked at Lexi and said, "I'm not bitch." And then they had a sit-down segment last night with Lexi, and Okada was late. And so they were going to start the interview without him. And then Buddy when Okada got there, asked for water, sat down, and Buddy cut off Lexi and was like, got straight to the point and was like, "I know who Okada used to be. I don't know if you know who I am, but I'm going to beat you for this title." And, Okada got mad, and then Buddy leaves he got mad. The guy, somebody handed Okada water, and Okada threw his. Oh, actually, no, I take that back. I'm remembering this out of order. That Buddy got in his face, and he balled up his fist and made Okada flinch, and that pissed Okada off. And Buddy leaves, and somebody hands him his bottle of water. He throws it. He kicks the chair, which is not something we've really seen a whole lot of Okada doing. In AEW. And so I think this match is going to be really good. Buddy is somebody that I think is underrated. He doesn't get to show what he's doing. And now, I mean, the rumors were out there that the reason that House of Black wasn't getting pushed the way that they were was because of Malachi Black. Malachi Black has not been there. We've seen a lot of Buddy Matthews, and we've seen a lot of Brody King, and we've seen a lot of Hounds of Hell getting pushed. Seems to be living up to that. Who knows? Maybe it's just a coincidence, but kind of what it looks like. But regardless of the reason, I'm glad that we're getting to see reminder of what Buddy Matthews could do. Also, Buddy Matthews versus Cedric is somebody I'd like to see them run back the 205 lives.
Sign me out. Remember, I mean, because all the way back to Strong, he was wrestling amazingly. Like a few years ago, he was in our matches of the year runnings.
Mm-hmm.
For some of the matches he had on Strong.
Yes.
So, I mean, This should be good.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I think it's going to be a really good match. And it's something I think Okada needs just as much as Buddy does.
Yeah.
He needs somebody like this. And Brad says that, Okada, he jokingly called him Timu Kenny. Buddy used to do Kenny's moves in WWE.
Got it.
He used to do he would do some of his moves sometimes, especially when people who outside of the WWE bubble were not watching New Japan didn't know that those were Kenny's moves.
Of course they did.
But no, seriously, this feud has been fun. The match should be great. Yeah, I agree. Paul says that huge tennis fan here, not sure about the Aussie time zones, but the difference between the Aussie Open in Melbourne and EST and the US is 16 hours. Okay. Got it. Yeah, I knew it was going to be something crazy.
Yeah, it's most of the day. It's like
big thing.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
No, I was thanking Paul for that.
Yes, thank you.
Because
Yeah, you guys
I'm
always
not
have our
able
back.
to.
It helps us with this. So
I'm not able to do my quick conversions of time zones.
Yeah. So we've already briefly talked about this already with Mercedes Moné and Harley Cameron. It was made official last night after the Harley halftime show in Houston, and after Puppet Moné, and she told Mercedes that the most entertaining she's been is when she had her hand up her ass controlling Puppet Moné. And Mercedes, that's what pushed Mercedes over the edge and made her agree to the match. And so I think the match is going to be a lot of fun. I know people are fussing about Harley getting a title match this soon, but I don't think Mercedes would do it if she didn't believe that Harley was worthy of a title match.
That's silly because you're trying to book for the Australian crowd anyway.
I think they think
that's
it should
people
be
not understanding like the fact that Tony's not booking for right now. It's just like when they go to Wembley or whatever. It needs to be booked for the local crowd, just the same as you would if you were going to Detroit or if you were. There's a reason Allison Kay is on every Detroit show here, and that Motor City used to be on a bunch of shows. And
why Brian Keith was on the show in Houston last night and got BK chants all match long. It's amazing, but
a smart promoter books for the crowd he's booking for.
Teriyaki was used in the Atlanta show as an extra, as a security guard on Dynamite, and after the thing was over, the crowd was loudly chanting for Teriyaki, who was from Atlanta and frequently wrestles, obviously in their indie scene, but is in GCW, has wrestled in ROH before. So you're, again, when you're booking ROH typically and you're bringing in.
How many times I've seen Rhino at an event? We saw Rhino in the airport on the way to Ireland. Okay? This is like how often I see Rhino in this region, okay? He's big here. He was wearing, the best part is it's like 0 dark 30 because you got to get on these international flights.
Right.
And it was so funny because the Detroit airport is like a ginormously long hallway, especially getting to the Delta terminals. It's just, you're just walking forever. Yeah. And he's in there. Bob's like, it's Rhino. He's wearing a Rhino for President shirt. It was 2016. It was like, that might not be the worst idea even. So, but again, this right here, and I think you said it more better, is that if Mercedes is training with Harley, and then this definitely was Mercedes.
Yes,
she certainly has her fingerprints on it.
And then if you go back to, and Brad makes I get what Brad's saying, that he says they could have made it a non-title match and had Harley with the upset lead to a match down the line at like Revolution. Perfectly, that would have been acceptable too. But I also feel like if you look at the TBS Championship when Jade had that title, Jade was wrestling all kinds of people. You can look at Athena. Athena has is having mostly their proving ground matches, but she had title matches against some people who had weren't necessarily should have been getting title shots, but she had gone through the roster. And no, Mercedes hasn't gone through the roster, so I get but I get it. Like, I get both arguments for it. I don't necessarily have a problem with it. Maybe it's because we all know that Hurley's not going to win, which, it sucks. But sometimes you go into title matches knowing that the champion's going to retain. But again, I feel like this is something that Mercedes wanted. And maybe the plan originally was for it to be non-title, and Mercedes like, no, I will put my title on against her, or my title on the line against her. So who knows? But regardless, I think it's going to be a fun match. And I'm looking forward to it. And their feud has been a lot of fun. Does it continue past this? I'm not sure, but it would have, with Brad's theory, had Harley gotten a victory in a non-title match and led to it, the story would keep going. But maybe they just move Harley on to the next thing, and Mercedes onto, the next woman to get her set up for Revolution. And at some point, I don't know if they've said, I guess Mercedes is going to have to go to the UK at some point, because she's going to defend her Rev Pro titles. And so I'm sure, maybe they're trying to go ahead and do the Harley stuff, give her a Revolution match, and then send her to the UK. I don't know what their plan is, for that, but I know that she is supposed to be going to the UK to defend this. Maybe they don't, because Of course, they could wait until All In, but not All In, but Forbidden Door, but that's not until August. So we'll see.
I think it'll be good. I think it's going to be. This is a home crowd booking, and it should be fine. I'd like to see I like that there were calls for Mo Nuppets. It's like, why is that not on the merch store right now?
Yeah, Brad makes a really good point. This is a huge test for Harley. One of the best to ever do it on a big show in her home. I'm excited to see how she does. Yeah, me too. And I feel like Mercedes thinks that I don't think that Mercedes would be in that ring with her if she didn't.
It means a lot more that it's a title match, regardless.
Yeah,
and it's for at home for her, so it's gonna get a lot of heat. It's gonna be it should be a good match. I get this. I understand. Sometimes people don't like the hot shotting, or the quick thing.
But they did, even though it is kind of hot shotted, they did build it up in a way that made sense.
Yeah. So moving on.
All right. We've got Death Riders. Well, 2 of the Death Riders. I'm sure the other ones will be around because they travel in a pack, like any good faction does.
I think we all need to give a big shout out for the excellent fireman carry by Marina Shafir on Wednesday's Dynamite. We all popped for it. I think as I think Nikki or you put it, protect what Mox loves. So she grabbed Renee and made sure that Renee was out of the fray.
Yes.
So well done, Marina.
And still had the title in the briefcase in the other hand. So 2 of the things that Jon Moxley loves in this world, 2 of the 3 things, they were I don't believe apparently Nora was not in any danger, so he got Renee.
Kept her home.
He got Renee out of there, got the title out of there. And the biggest pop of the night, I think, might have been for that.
Pretty funny.
And then last night was funny because Jon Moxley and Marina were not advertised for the show, and so they go and they're showing at the beginning of Collision. You see Tony and Nigel, they're talking, trying to go down the card. And all of a sudden, you see this man go flying across the screen, and I was like, "What was that?" And the camera cuts, and it's Marina. Marina wants to let you know that they are here. Jon Moxley follows shortly behind her. He gets in the ring. And he's like, the show doesn't start till I say it starts. And then he talked about the thousands of reasons he was not giving Cope a match. And the number one reason is because I don't like you. So I'm not giving you a title match because I don't have to. However, I will face you. I will agree to this Brisbane brawl that we're doing next week with you and Jay White. And he's bringing his number one guy, Claudio, with him. In this match, I'm sure we'll see Pac and Yuta because again they travel in a pack.
Well, someone mentioned blood, and Moxley immediately went, "Yeah, okay."
Yeah.
I mean, he said something about making him. I think it was Jay White said something about making Jon Moxley. He knew exactly because he's Jay White, and he always knows which buttons to push because he is excellent. He said buckets of blood, and he knew that Jon Moxley would.
It turned on. John heard that and he's like, "Okay,
click." Oh, you said
challenge
the blood I'm in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Challenge accepted immediately.
He's like different continent, blood feud,
in Australia for the first time. Let's go or
whatever. I need to bleed. I want to bleed in as many countries as I possibly can.
Yeah.
He's done it in Ireland, in front of the OTT crowd. Apparently, it was quite a sight. One of the production guys happens to be a good brother of my pal, and he was like, just the bottoms of his shoes. He's like, this dude bleeds a lot.
Yeah, he does.
It's hilarious because there's so many great Moxley matches that we talk about, like the Tom Lawler match.
I was about to say the Tom Lawler one is the one that we always get. Like on the I know there's the Muda scale, but like on the Moxley scale, it's for me.
Yeah, he's starting to.
It's that one, the one with Filthy Tom.
Yeah, that's the Moxley scale right there.
Yes. Brad says that he's seeing that Cope or Jay are getting the pin on Mox will lead to a Revolution title match. They've been teasing Cope, but Jay getting the pin would be awesome. I tweeted the other day when Cope made the challenge, I tweeted and said I would much rather see Jay White getting this title match.
Me too. They need to push Jay White for the 8 billionth time. In case I haven't said it, Oh my gosh! Every time he's one of the many people that are not using enough. They're not just get him this pin. I mean, it kind of sets itself up. That would be a big pop, obviously. Right. I think.
Well, and I guess if you go back to, and Jay getting the pin would make sense. I mean, obviously Australia and New Zealand are not the same, but with him being
closer to home,
right, to have him get a pin on the champion, or even Claudio for that matter.
He's at least from that side of the globe. How about?
Right. Yeah. Then, that would be a really cool thing for him. And if we go back to the conversation we had last week, because of the Death Riders explained, Death Riders, according to them, they don't like they're right. They don't want, they're tired of the previous generation trying to snuff things out or to try to get these. But so I could see them going with Adam Copeland at Revolution and letting that match happen, and then switching their sights to Jay White and going back to some of the younger guys and some of the guys. And again, I know we've talked about it before. Like if we are waiting on Eddie Kingston, and then the conversation of, not putting not that you shouldn't put Eddie Kingston over, but still going with a younger person, which of course goes back to the Darby conversation. But I think that however long Mox is holding this title, they need a balance. And get so if you're gonna go with Cope, then you have to immediately go to one of these younger guys. It can't be Jeff Jarrett, and it can't be Chris Jericho, and it can't be Dustin Rhodes for that matter. You've got not when you have your Jay Whites, your Orange Cassidy's. You've got there's a ton of people that they could.
Even people like Daniel Garcia, or even putting Wheeler Yuta ahead, or Will Hobbs, or
right, yeah. And he's he's wrestled Hobbs twice.
And Hangman are still out there, and that story is not. I mean,
and Swerve and the Ricochet. Swerve seems pretty busy with the Ricochet
stuff. Thing. Ricochet came out to Swerve's music in Seattle,
and was wearing the Jimmy Rave jacket that he took, and then
came out to get his ass handed to him by Swerve.
Yes, and Nana, and then
which apparently was the first time that Nana's been in Defy, which is cool. So
that is cool. Yeah,
they're doing this as like an almost AEW is kind of doing real crossover stuff in the
And then, as you said, Swerve did end up when he beat Kenta for the title. Kenta tweeted he held that title for 614 days, which is incredible. And so they're doing.
I didn't realize Marina Shafir was the champion, the women's champion.
I saw that, and I think I
was like, "Oh my god, that's so awesome!"
And then, of course, she had been involved with Revolver for a while, and that's where all the kind of the John Moxley stuff came along. It's because they were doing stuff in Revolver. So they have these cool little ties with indie wrestling, which is really cool to see. And then you have, you also have Hog Wrestling, which is Private Party, still wrestled there a lot. Ricky Starks just wrestled there. Mercedes is on her way there. Cool. So they are kind of doing some, and then you have Athena, who did Maple Leaf Pro, a couple of months ago. So it is kind of cool that I'm glad now that they're talking about these things and holding it over. I mean, he's not the Deadlock Pro champion anymore, but Brian Keith, when he first was coming into AEW, he had been their national champion for a while, and then he dropped the title when he officially signed. And his match, if you have not watched Collision, if you watch anything from Collision, go watch the match with Bandito. That match was so good. Yeah. And I'm already a big fan of Bandito's. I love Brian Keith. I was late on the Brian Keith train when he was on the Indies, but I got on that train real quick. And then to see them and he got to be the bounty hunter, which of course is because he's collecting the bounty on Bandito. But they did this. Yeah, the drop kick was excellent. The drop kick draw. Yes, they did that. So they backed up and they did this 10. Like, I've seen that clip so many times since last night. They backed up and they did the 10 paces. And then it was just it was fun, but it didn't take away from the match. Like, I think it just added to it. But like, if you go watch anything from last night, I highly recommend that. And then also watch the stuff with Mariah and Tony. That was a really cool thing.
Last night's show was really good.
Yeah, and I thought last week's show was really good. Yeah, Kyle Fletcher and Mark Briscoe were in the main event. It was a rematch from the Continental Classic. That was a really good match too. Like, I would recommend watching the entire show.
Yeah, it was a good show. The whole show was good. Like, Collision is picking back up. It's back to being my A show again.
And I'm hearing there have been, I'm hearing that Tony Khan apparently has gotten more involved in Collision again, and suddenly we have
I'm
really
sorry,
good
my
matches again. Wow.
can't be my A show. It's A1 and A2, right?
Right.
We don't have an A show and a B show.
No. Brad says BK versus Bandito was awesome. It was so much fun. That
nice
crowd,
to
and of
see.
course, because BK had he had the hometown crowd who were super behind him, but they loved Bandito too. And then and then in another match we had. So I could tell Tony's involved with Collision again because he loves doing the unannounced matches that we were not preparing for. And LFI comes out, and I was like, there was not supposed to be an LFI match, and they wrestled 3 indie guys. But then it brought back the return of Hologram, which was cool. Holograms look awesome. He's got like a new gear. The crowd went crazy for him. Like it was really cool.
And that's where you got your super duper destroyer in that match.
Yes, I did.
I was like, holy crap! It was like an Uber. I'm like, she got like a super destroyer.
I did. I appreciated that very much. And Fernando says the body press to the table by Mark was amazing. Yes. And last night was the best and most fun Collision we've got in a very long time. I would agree. But I thought last week's Collision was really good. Like I thought I really enjoyed that one too because I enjoyed the triple threat TNT championship match was Daniel versus Kyle O'Reilly versus Lee Moriarty. Because that is very much.
I think they're finally starting to flesh some things out, and it seems to be. I think they had a really good. I know we don't talk about ratings, but I think they had a really good week this week on Dynamite, which is good to hear because I know things were kind of wanky. Mm-hmm. So,
Rush was brutal to the referees last night. Yeah, that's interesting to see how that's going to play out. And then because like last week we had Beast Mortos because LFI came back for Beast Mortos because that's who he'd been with, but they were off TV because they got into some trouble. They got some heat. Imagine that, Rush getting heat by the wrestling company.
I hope that him and Bandito and those guys can just.
I think Bandito has been fine. It's Rush.
Rush is usually he's just been hurt. Bandito was. So.
Yeah, Bandito was hurt, and then he came back and concussed himself.
And Rush can kind of be a bit of a.
And so
Eva.
So that's interesting. But then Beast Mortos did work with him last night, but last week he kind of was like, I don't know about this. Like he kind of just like left them. He wouldn't do the fists in the air with them, and so it'll be interesting how that plays out. And if he keeps, then they brought Commander, got involved with it. Was a lot of fun. Yes, Collision is slowly becoming a can't miss show, and it was like that for a while, and then as all wrestling shows do, they cycle through and was not for me. I always enjoy Collision, but it wasn't like for people who don't watch every week like I have to do. It did become where it's all right if you miss this, go back and watch this match or this match. But now it's getting like watch the show.
Yeah, we're watching more regular. We're back to watching pretty much every Saturday. We were doing the thing for a little while where it was like if we miss it, we'll watch it Sunday morning before I'll watch it. Like I get up and watch it with my coffee.
Right.
So
Maria,
New Japan has now conditioned me to do the morning wrestling thing, and I don't mind it. So it's kind of like a weird Zen thing with even the dogs enjoy it. So they're like, whatever.
Perfect. Maria says Beast Mortos should get a big push and get more wins. Yes, and yes.
Always and forever.
Yes, for sure.
All right, let's
go back over to Grand Slam because I think we only got a couple matches left.
I think so. So on that one, we'll see what happens. Go Jay.
Yes. And another tag team match, which I'm very excited for this.
This should be a banger.
Because this is going to be incredible. So we've got obviously Will Ospreay and Kenny have made up. They're friends now. Kenny realizes he can trust Will, and he needs somebody to go against the Don Callis family, especially because Don Callis added a new member, and it is Mark Davis, but not in the way that we think. Mark Davis is basically working for the Don Callis family against his will because Don Callis, well, first of all, he said I have power of attorney over him, which is not the correct phrase.
Yeah.
I think he misspoke, but that was the phrase he used because Nikki was like, he does what now? That's not what that means. But basically, if Mark Davis wants to wrestle, he has in the Don Callis family.
Right.
And that's it. And he even, so then later on, they're talking about sometimes you don't like your coaches on a team, but you just do what you have to. So Don Callis basically said, Mark Davis hates me, but if he wants to wrestle,
he has to do my bidding.
Family. So that kind of explains. I like the explanation that they gave because Mark did turn on Don Callis and he aligned with Will against Kyle Fletcher, and then they had a couple tag matches with him and Powerhouse Hobbs because Hobbs obviously used to be involved in the Don Callis family as well. And then Mark Davis disappeared for a couple of weeks, and then I said, unless he is the sixth member, like where is he at? And then here he comes, and Don Callis talked all through Aussie Open's theme song, and we were like, shh, this theme song is amazing. It should be like Jose Ninare, don't talk during it. Don. Especially Don, we don't want to hear you. And then Nikki's made the point that was probably the last time we were going to get to hear that, because he's probably going to be coming out to the Don Callis theme from now on.
Ugh, dang.
Which I hate, because that theme song is amazing.
I can't wait until everyone turns on Don Callis.
Yeah, the fans already have.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I was in Detroit, okay?
Yes, I remember you saying.
I mean, everyone was like, they should bottle this Houston crowd. I'm like, well, you could come back to Detroit someday.
Right? Exactly.
We've been a big, awesome crowd every time.
Yeah. Fernando says that the tag match has the potential to be a match of the year candidate. Yeah.
I am that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the guys in that match.
Right. All of them already have match of the years separately. Nikki said Callis is wild, so he probably just said whatever, which is true. He probably just said, yeah, I have power of attorney over him, whatever. Brad says Don Callis basically calling out every wrestler under AEW contract that doesn't want to do jobs and just sit at home collecting checks with this Mark Davis story, which is funny because Mark Davis it's not like Mark Davis was sitting home and collecting paychecks. He was
actually hurt.
He couldn't help it. And that's how we got to this point, because Aussie Open was, they were a tag team and they got hurt in a tag match. And then
I wondered if they were trying to revive the Aussie Open FTR rivalry to play it back in Wembley, because that's where they did it at World Quest, because they're doing Forbidden Door.
But it was Wembley is where they were injured. That's where it was Wrestle Dream. I take that back. They did wrestle in Wembley in the pre-show. They were the first match on 0 Hour. But that's right. It was Wrestle Dream in October is where he ended up.
Because Wembley is going to be Forbidden Door this year and not All In. So it might make sense to run that back, just since they did that match a few years ago at Royal Quest. And it was like John's match of the year, like 3-4 years ago.
Yeah. Man, and Aussie Open for a while there, Aussie Open was top 5 tag team in the world. They were
destroying it.
They were incredible.
It was really sad when Mark went down, actually, because they were.
I hate that. Yeah, they were finally getting built back up in AEW, and then of course
they were both in the tournament.
Kyle just took his opportunity and ran with it, and has been incredible. And you can't stop that. But Mark Davis is good in his own right. Like you and I talked about it when they were both in. BOSJ,
when they were wrestling individually.
Yeah. And we could see, and I was like, okay, these two can both go individual. Like they're incredible together, but separately, they are also very good. And so I think Mark Davis is very underrated, and I'm glad, hopefully he can stay healthy and we can get some good matches out of him, because Mark is really, really good. Nikki, I agree that she hates it because Aussie Open has one of the best
They
themes.
do have a great theme.
I love their theme. And then Fernando says that after this match, Will or Kenny should go for Moxley at the next pay-per-view. From what I understand, they're keeping Omega out of that title picture for a while. I think as long as the Death Rider story is going, Kenny's not going to be in the story. But of course, obviously everything is subject to change. You have to deal with injuries and how fans react to things and kind of have to pivot. But I would love to see both of them go for the title. And then this better be our main event, even though it's not a pay-per-view.
We manifested it being at the top of the card because we want this to be the main event. It's not a pay-per-view, but it's a start. This match, we just listed all those matches. This match is absolutely the match of this should be the main event.
Yep. And then they should get a pay-per-view main event. Or at least the women should. I'll say that.
Let's baby steps, Sam.
Baby steps. So I'm glad in the front of the Australian crowd, in Tony's hometown, in the stadium that Tony used to go watch wrestling in. Her mom sold hot dogs outside of the stadium to earn money for her so that she could wrestle. This is your main event. This is your story. This is the story you've been telling for a year and a half now. We saw some role reversal here, obviously with the rookie, and then going after Mariah May, and then we found out that she's been playing a part because she's a phenomenal actress. And now we have Timeless Tony is back. Luther is back. We got Luther last night. So last night, Mariah held a glamorous exhibition match. She wrestled an independent wrestler who was dressed kind of similarly to Toni Storm, had a blonde, had, her hair, the way her hair was fixed, beat her in 33 seconds, which kind of figured this was going to be a squash, and it made sense for the story that they were telling. And then Mariah's in the ring, and here comes Luther, and Luther has a tray covered by a black cloth, and he reveals the cloth, and it's the heel or the shoe. As Nigel said, watch out for. He said, Mariah, watch out for the shoe. And then she goes, and so after Mariah had won this match, before Luther even got out there, she picked the woman up by her head, put red lipstick on her, and then smeared it on her face the way that Tony does. So she goes, after Luther comes out, Mariah goes to pick her up again, except for it's not Shay Carmichael anymore. It's now Toni Storm. and Mariah is shocked, and they go at it a little bit. Tony gets her on the steel steps, is getting ready to slam her face first into it. She escapes, jumps over the barricade, and goes through the crowd. So I'm glad that I figured they'd get Luther involved. I wasn't sure if it would be at Grand Slam itself, but we're getting him the week before.
His reaction when he was, that's highly inappropriate. Just the way that he reacted, it popped me pretty hard. I got a pretty serious kick out of that moment. It was very well done.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Fernando is moment. Yeah. Yeah.
They really are where it's at right now. This story is like the best. It's so awesome. Like
it is. And it hasn't gotten stale. They found ways to keep it going even when Tony wasn't there. The only thing is, who do you think wins this match? Do you think Mariah retains, or do you think they have Tony take the title back?
It's really tough because of the hometown thing. Mm-hmm. To say that Tony drops this after doing all the stuff that she did. And I think the way that the story has to be told is that she kind of has to get the belt back. I still don't want to. I'm not. Maybe. I mean, maybe the embarrassing Tony in her home thing breaks her further and creates a Tony has to kick Mariah's ass in Wembley kind of deal. If you want to keep the story going that long, I mean, that's quite a while. But
yeah. I've gone back. I'm torn on this too. I think on the one hand, Mariah has to retain because beating Tony a second time solidifies her as the champion. It solidifies everything that she's done and the reasons she did the things that she has done. But then on the other hand, and then that allows somebody to take that title off of Mariah, because I don't know how much longer Mariah should hold that title with everything else going on in the women's division. I don't think the story necessarily even needs a title. You could keep the story going without it if they wanted to, or maybe they just take a break for a while, kind of like they've done with Swerve and Hangman, send them off in different directions. This is clearly something they can revisit, even a year from now.
Because if they both lose it, then they're both messed up. So
right.
Because then their folly cost them both the belt.
Right. And then, but on the other hand, it feels like redemption. Obviously, Tony is going for a redemption. She wants her title back. Losing this title sent her into madness to the point where she had to act like the rookie to start this all over again. And she had to, pretend like she had memory recall problems and all of this thing. So I could see it going either way. But then if Tony gets the title back, how long do you keep her in the title picture? Because both of these women, while the story has been incredible and has been one of the best, the title has been between the two of them for a couple of years now. We need to have some other women getting, holding this title. And so, which of course, like, yes, you would want to have Kenny Omega keep the title at all times, but you can't do that. And so you also can't keep this title on Timeless Toni
Storm forever,
or even Mariah. So I go back and forth. I'm gonna say Mariah gets the win because I think it solidifies Mariah's title, her whole title.
Yeah,
reign.
I kind of feel like she's gonna win, even though it's in Tony's home area. I think that'll be part of the story. They'll make it part of the story. I mean, I don't necessarily want to see it go back to Tony because I feel like that's
we're starting over again.
Snake eating it.
Because then what happens? So then how long? Because then Tony holds the title until when? Yeah. And then are you holding down other women?
Because she's already. I mean, not to be like, oh, you can have, but she's had the belt like 2-3 times now. I mean, she was one of the original holders. She actually was on the
and then she had to vacate. And then she had to vacate the title. Yeah. And so they told us. So, and again, I don't think the story necessarily needs the title. They can do, because it would be interesting if they do the story and there is no title involved with it. And
well, that's what I'm saying is because if Mariah keeps it here and then ultimately loses it to someone entirely different, then the two of them are like, holy crap, we're so busy fighting each other, we lost what mattered the most, which was the belt. And
and now we also know
so they become a B plot, and then you get your main plot in there with maybe Athena or God knows.
Because I still think Athena versus Mercedes is the all-in story.
Yeah,
I think that's where we're going. I think that's a TBS championship story. I don't think Mercedes goes anywhere near this title. And I think it was Brad or somebody has mentioned before that they think that Mercedes will break Jade's record for longest days holding that TBS championship, that she breaks it, which I could see that being the case. I could see Mercedes being the one that they kind of.
It might be better to do that anyway, given what they paid and just
so I could see that being what they do. Although, or even if she doesn't get it that whole time, I could see Mercedes holding it until All In, and Athena being the one to dethrone her to come up from ROH and then come in and finally win a title and do it in Texas, in her home state. Like, I think that's the story here. So I think Mercedes is not going to be involved with this title at all, or at least not in the near future.
No, not this title.
Maybe 2020, maybe 2026 we see Mercedes go for the world championship, but she's rebuilding the TBS championship in her image and how she wants it.
I kind of like what she's doing, she's doing over on this, like, again, with the sort of B plot storyline of the women's division, and like, this is the A plot and that's the B plot. It's kind of like, okay, cool. We've got these two sort of things going on at the same time that are really good. And I mean, both have really good stories attached to them. So
yeah, they do, which is nice to see.
And I like the idea of it. I mean, Texas seems like the most appropriate place in the world, obviously, to bring Athena out. So
right. And so Fernando's idea is that Tony wins and then do Tony versus Mercedes. They're not going to unify those titles. Those are going to be two separate.
They're not. No,
they're not going to do that. The way there's too many, because I don't think that the women are going to get tag titles anytime soon. And I think so they need two titles. So I don't think that that's what's going to happen. Brad says Tony should win due to the story, but Mariah coming out as champion is bigger for her. I agree with that. Maria says that Storm versus Nia is the best story in wrestling right now. Yes, and also now we have the factor of Mina Shirakawa got injured last weekend in Japan and is out an undetermined amount of time. And her injury has, at least as far as what I wrote the article last week, her injury had not been disclosed. I don't know if that's, of course, because I don't follow Stardom.
That's never good.
So as far as I know, it has not been, they have not announced what the injury is or how long she's going to be out. So I don't expect her to be clearly she wouldn't have to wrestle to be involved, but I assume that she's not going to be involved with the storyline with Tony and Mariah right now. I mean, of course they could fly her in and, do stuff like that, but I assume that they're not doing that. Nikki said there's so much that they could do. So it's hard to say where they go from titles here. I would disagree with that. Fernando says, unfortunately, May's title reign was a private party type of title reign. Tony needs to get that title belt back. I think that her title run I thought she's done a really good job at elevating other champions. And it wasn't as, I think also because the precedent was set with Tony and what she was doing, that sometimes, and even what Mercedes is doing, because Mercedes is wrestling all kinds of talent in and out of AEW on top of that. And so I can see how that might look like maybe Mariah is not doing as much. So like there is some criticism for sure with her title reign. Brad makes the point that if this is the main event, Tony needs to win. You don't want to do anything to kill the territory out of the gate. Mariah won it in her home. Tony in at her home would be for full circle. Yeah, I mean, that's the point too. But I don't think I don't necessarily think that people would be mad at Mariah winning. But I could be. I'm not an Australian, so maybe it would. Maybe that is something that would piss them off if Tony wins. So this is definitely a thing where they could go either way. And I
guess this is one of the first times that I'm like, okay, this is close to New Japan. It's okay. I feel like this might be one of the times where it's whoever wins, it's okay.
Yeah,
like
right. And I feel like they can still do the story going in two different directions. But Brad does make a good point, like sending the fans home happy if this is your main event.
I like that there's the fact that we're doubting it means that Tony Khan booked this well.
Just realized
he needs to do more of this with everything, because this is how we should feel about every storyline. It could go either way. Like that's what makes, like we were talking about it earlier in the show, is like the New Japan thing is that any given day, like it's like, no, I know for one of these people, maybe he's not going to win, maybe he is going to win, but the fact is like he has a real chance. Like you are in there going, holy crap.
Right.
So, I like that. I like that. I like that it's in question. How about that?
Yes. Maria says Mercedes wins the championship from Tony in a title versus title match and keeps collecting. I mean, that's certainly where they can go with it. And that's why I don't want a situation in ROH where Athena just never loses the title and goes to the main roster, because that's what happened to her in WWE. Asuka did not put her, it wasn't Asuka's fault, so the way they booked it, but Asuka went to the main roster, never dropped the title, and Ember Moon never got the title she was supposed to have. I don't want Athena to do the same thing. But Mercedes could win the ROH Women's Championship. If she wins the TV championship, maybe I wouldn't be as disappointed. If she's gonna, go to Honor Club, if Honor Club is not beneath her. But there's that too. But I do also, on the other hand, I want Mercedes to hold all the belts. So, nice. Maria says that Tony did a good job. And then Brad's just let us know that Willow was announced to face Mayu Watanabe for the TJPW on March 16th. Interesting. That is, good for her. That'll be really awesome. Yeah. So that is good stuff. But so I'm looking forward to Grand Slam. I know there are a lot of questions about how it was presented and the time it's airing, and they're all valid, and I get it. And I'm not thrilled about having to cover it at 11:30 at night or whatever time it ends up being. But I think regardless, the show will be really good. Hopefully Australia is a market that they continue to go to, and then maybe they will actually bring a pay-per-view to Australia at some point. That would be cool to see. So I think that, unless there's anything else you have to add to AEW or any of the other topics. And then if you missed it, we will, before we get out of here, do want to bring up the super chats again. If you missed it, Mel and I have the opportunity to be a sponsor for Low at Wrestling Wind Down. She is doing a networking event during Mania weekend. It's for women in wrestling. She has presented us an opportunity to be a sponsor for that. We are trying to get to the $100 level sponsorship, and that would help to get our name out there, especially in front of women wrestling fans. Of course, we want to advertise to all wrestling fans, but in particular, being women in this space, we know how difficult that can be at times. And so any super chats that we receive between now and March 17th will be going to that sponsorship opportunity. And if you are able to, we would love to have your help with that. If not, please don't feel obligated to. It is something that we will be bringing up for the next few weeks. So
look for it on our socials. We are going to be shamelessly plugging it a little bit because we would like to try and get in on it. And it is something that it's all of us supporting each other. It's really fun that Lo is doing a networking thing at all. Like she's, bought a table. She's at the convention. She's at the marketing thing. That's a big thing. So it would be great to be part of it and to help support her. And so, yes. I mean, that's, and like Sam said at the beginning, sometimes you don't know where your money's going, or whatever. That is what it's going to.
We're investing it back into ourselves, but also into another woman wrestling content creator
back into the community of all of us, the people that you guys show up for us every week, and it's same group. So
yes, definitely. So just get used to it. We'll be plugging. We're gonna try.
And we do have a new Powerbombshells blue ski. So I gotta say it that way. Blue sky. So we are on the butterfly under Powerbombshells. We are Powerbombshells pretty much everywhere now. And like Darius said earlier, I'm not on all of them either, but I'm on the main. We are on the main ones at Powerbombshells.
Yes. Thank you. So. And then I will get to this comment. Maria said that when I saw Dustin Rhodes on both Dynamite and Collision, I just shook my head saying to myself, another ROH champion being showcased, but still no Athena. Agreed. Although I did really enjoy, I thought Dustin cut an excellent promo. Babyface Dustin Rhodes is one of the best. And I was a little annoyed last night on Collision, but I know why. It's because it's in Texas. That's where he's from. He didn't take away too much time, even though the promo was very similar to what he was shorter version of what he already cut. I'm glad they're getting the match out of the way on Wednesday because we'll still be in Texas. But I get it. I'm the same way. I just could have, Athena should be on TV. So I get it. I'm right there with you, Maria.
We are with you.
So I think that covers everything. And thank you. If you're watching the Super Bowl, have a good time. If you are watching just for Kendrick Lamar, because that's what I'm looking forward to the game itself, but I am also very much looking to what Kendrick Lamar is going to do today. And if he's just going to sing Not Like Us on repeat for 10 minutes, which I would not be mad at. So hopefully, so I think we'll have a good show. If you put any money on the game like I did, hopefully we all win. And we'll see you next week.
I big shout out to my bird bros out there in the world, fellow go bird teams rule. So go bird team.
Yeah.
So. All right. And seriously, thanks to Darius Lockhart at the beginning of the show. We really appreciate his time. Guys, check out Ashe.com. Please subscribe to them and to us. And all you guys in the chat every week, and all you guys on the playbacks, thank you. We really appreciate it. Have an awesome week.